All right. It looks like we are live. Welcome, everyone. This is Andre's Restart. I got a few good friends to come on today to talk about Nintendo, as we try to do every Monday night. For the first time, we got Super Metal Dave 64. He is on. Thanks for coming on, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. And BoTalksGames is also on as well. He was on a couple weeks ago. We had a great conversation, and I thought he'd be a great fit for tonight as well. How you doing, man?
Yeah, thanks for having me again. It was a lot of fun last time, so excited to get into it tonight.
For sure, for sure. And then you guys should know Brandon. If you're new here, then you don't. But Brandon is my co-host and friend as well.
Yes,
How
sir.
you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Doing good. A lot of things going on in my personal life, but that's not going to stop me from being here on the cast.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, we have some cool stuff to talk about tonight. We are going. The podcast is going through some changes. I'm trying to increase the quality a little bit. We've been having some technical issues the last couple
Workshopping
weeks.
stuff.
We're workshopping stuff. It's a
Troubleshooting as well, yeah.
a lot of troubleshooting. So I may have to reset Discord a couple times. There may just be a couple minor pauses. I'll let you know. But it should, based off last week, I think it'll be fine if it even comes to that. But yes, the plan tonight is to talk about a few different things. We had a little bit of information coming out from Masahiro Sakurai this past week, the creator for both Kirby and Smash Brothers. And there's been some speculation about what he may be working on next, if anything at all. So we're going to be talking about that. And then we're also going to be talking about the future of Zelda, because there was an interview that came out that suggested that there may not be any more linear Zeldas moving forward. Games like Ocarina of Time, Link to the Past, Twilight Princess, and we may be moving more in the direction of Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild. And there's a little bit of discussion on is that the proper direction for Zelda? Can we still see linear Zelda? So we'll be talking about that. And then perhaps the biggest topic for the evening is related to Nintendo Switch 2. As I put in the title, we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 announcement timing, because there's been a few things going on recently that could be indicating an announcement might be coming soon. We don't know for sure, but that's the point of tonight's discussion. So that is the general plan for the evening. But before we jump into things, let's just how about we talk about ourselves. Dave, what do you do on your channel, man?
Well, I cover lots of stuff like Metroid and tech videos about Switch 2, for example. And I do lots of live streaming as well. I just live stream a couple of days, usually on the weekend. But yeah, I've been doing content creating since 2010. So I've been
Long
doing this.
time.
I just passed my 13th year last month. So
Wow.
been doing this for a
Veteran.
long time, and I kind of pick and choose my topics, what I'm really interested in to cover, and then I go all out on my effort on how to on which topic I want to cover. The whole thing, pushing for just pure numbers and subscribers is not really my type of thing. It's more just getting people to follow me for the type of content that I make, not necessarily me trying to get people to follow me for the content that they want.
Right.
Yeah,
I understand
and,
that.
I take pride in that. So I put a lot of effort in my videos. So yeah, if you like stuff about Metroid Prime 4 or Metroid Prime in general, or other Metroid topics, or also in-depth tech discussions about hardware that Nintendo could be working on, like the Switch 2, or just information about certain technologies that are used in games in general, you can definitely follow me for that, and you might find it interesting.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been watching you, Dave, for I mean, we've had multiple discussions before, right? We've known each other for a little bit, but I've been watching your videos for a very long time, right? And me being a big Metroid fan, and also being a fan of hardware speculation, I've been always naturally drawn to your content. It's some of the best that there is. So for guys, if you haven't watched Dave before, definitely check it out. He always puts out really informed videos. It's one thing that you do a really great job of is talking about kind of just the hiring process, and kind of what we can glean about what's going on with Metroid, the public information, which not many people have a good understanding of. So Metroid fans, check out Dave if you haven't done so already.
Yeah, it's really easy to go out there on Twitter and say, oh, where's Metroid Prime 4? It must be doing terribly, or something like that. But yeah, if you actually look at the information provide, like that they're doing about that game. They're actually really excited about it. Like the developers themselves have been saying behind the scenes on their job profiles that they're excited to work on this game, and there's all kinds of various things that they're working on that do look really exciting. So I don't think people should be worried about that game. I do think it also is kind of tied into a Switch 2, so they could be being shown at the same time. So we'll see.
Put Samus in the thumbnail for a reason. I was like, we could find a way to squeeze it in there. It might make sense. Honestly, we'll get into it. I actually think it might be really relevant for this discussion. Not just me being a blind Metroid fan. I think it kind of helps to fit the puzzle if some things that are occurring are accurate, which we will be getting to today. But, BoTalks is also coming back as well. Also a great Nintendo content creator. Talks about a number of things as well. I think, I saw you uploaded today talking about your Switch collection. Is that not right?
Yeah. So I do a lot of Switch news coverage or Nintendo news coverage. I've been doing it since 2014, 2013, something like that, off and on. But also a lot of collecting stuff. I like collecting. So, I posted a video today going over my Switch collection and just kind of organizing in. Just, I don't know. It was a fun video to make. But yeah, just mostly news coverage. A lot of what you do, Andres, just similar talking points, that kind of thing. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, I love doing this. It's always fun to like have these kinds of discussions. I was talking with a friend earlier. Like, it's interesting. Like, whenever I try to talk about Nintendo with people like outside of like the YouTube space, it's different, right? Like, I always love talking about Zelda. But if I talk with like friends or family outside of this space, it's not the same level, right? Like, because we're passionate on a whole other level, right? Like, we study and we understand, we think about this stuff a lot. We could talk about Zelda for two straight hours and we won't be tired. The only reason we'll have to stop is because we have to work in the morning. Like, that's, so it's just different. But definitely, I think we're gonna have a good discussion tonight. So let's check with the chat real quick. We'll take a couple questions and then we'll jump into the first topic. So let's see here. Samuel A. added me. Can you guys go over the leaks for Q1 Switch 2 release, Foxconn and Hongzone producing parts for Switch 2 launching in Q1 2024? So, that kind of ties into the big topic for tonight. But related to the Hongzone thing, from what I've read, basically, and Dave, I think you're I'm assuming you're up to speed on this, but if you're not, let me know. But from what I've
Which part?
the whole Hongzone, basically, apparently there is some, we're getting reports from a site that predicts like stocks and stuff like that. There is metal plates already being manufactured, and they're estimating that Switch 2 is going to be releasing Q1 of 2024. And apparently there's a history here where they talked about this for the initial Switch, and they were pretty close to the release timing as well a few years back.
Yeah, because Nintendo was originally planning on releasing the Switch, known as the NX, holiday of 2016. I think they even said that at one point in one of their, but due to how complicated the launch was, and the secrecy around that console was insane. Even though it leaked, it was still extremely secretive for them, and I think they got their actual dev kits out really late on that system, so they ended up pushing it back to March 2017. But so did that post like on Saturday or something, or Saturday or Sunday?
I didn't hear about it till yesterday, but I looked it up. There was articles that posted, said 2 days ago from today, so I think there were some articles coming up already on it since this Saturday.
Yeah, no, I don't know exactly the history of that particular publication, but they're probably, I mean, if it's the same one who did the Switch, then they're probably around, it's probably gonna be correct in some way. But the thing is that we've had other parts and suppliers say that there was a Switch Pro coming that was entering manufacturing in early 2020, and you never know with these things, obviously, but yeah, we can kind of tell it's coming towards the end here with the current Switch, so it kind of makes sense. Even if they're not actually like legit sources, it still makes sense that they would be releasing this anyway next year. So I do think there's some truth to it, but You still need to look at it, the big picture. They could be a few months off still, but we'll have to wait and see.
For sure. And we'll be diving a little bit into that a little bit deeper later. So we'll hold off on it. That's our big topic. Let's see here. Having Hope 5 has renewed their membership. They've been a member for 5 straight months. Thank you, Having Hope 5. It's always great having you around. Thanks for joining tonight. It's good to have you. All right. Let's see here. Kelly Kill. Dave is dope. I read that as Dave is Hope, but absolutely. For sure.
Yeah, I've seen them in my streams before. Yeah.
Cool. Brian Doe. So I finally beat Tears of the Kingdom. Are we doing spoilers yet? So Brad and I actually did a spoiler cast a couple weeks ago talking about the end of the game. We're not going to spoil Tears of the Kingdom here because there may be people watching that aren't looking for that, right? We will be talking about that game inevitably when we get into the Zelda topic, because it's why that topic has come up. But we're not going to spoil any like major story elements. We'll talk about some gameplay stuff and things like that, but we're not going to spoil anything. But let's just jump into the first topic here. All right, we'll do a little bit of an appetizer topic, and that's related to this Sakurai situation. So if you guys haven't heard, last week on Masahiro Sakurai's YouTube channel, he does a lot of videos, like a few times a week, kind of talking about how to make games. Like this has kind of been one of his most recent projects where he makes a lot of really great videos, usually on the shorter side, that are meant to kind of educate on the history of the industry and try and sort of position people to maybe get into game development. He talks about a lot of those concepts and ideas from his perspective, and a lot of the time it's kind of talking about Nintendo history. So if you're a Nintendo fan, even if you're not into game development, it's a pretty fun time. But last week he put out a longer video than usual. Not saying he never does it, because he does, but it's just a little bit out of the ordinary for him. He put out a 13+ minute video talking about Kid Icarus Uprising. And at the end of the video, he talks about how he would love it if they were to make a remaster of Kid Icarus with better visuals on new hardware. He doesn't specifically say Switch, which I find interesting. But he also says that currently it'll be very challenging to find a team to get it done. Something to that effect. Seemingly confirming that there is no Kid Icarus remaster that's been in development, which we thought there was because a few months ago he had another video where he mentioned it would be really great if someone brought over Kid Icarus to modern hardware, and this came around the same time that we saw Bandai Namco hiring that was being contracted by Nintendo for a 3D action game, implying that they were remastering a 3D action game. There aren't too many 3D action games you could choose from, so Kid Icarus Uprising felt like a really good fit. It's the kind of game that would benefit from newer hardware, especially with dual sticks. And then Sakurai seemingly teased it, but now recently it doesn't seem like it. If you check his Twitter posts, it seems to further suggest that there is nothing currently in development. He's telling people, hey, right now seems like a really tough thing to do. Try it out on your 3DS while you still can. So that's how it seems. It doesn't look like the Kid Icarus remaster is in the works. But he does talk about how he'd love to get a remaster and maybe also work on a sequel in the future. So then, that begs the question. What is Sakurai working on? Is he working on next Smash Brothers? Is he just working on his YouTube channel because he is semi-retired now? Is he kind of doing a fake out here and there is some sort of Kid Icarus project in the works? What do you guys think is happening? Feel free to jump in.
It's so hard to say because, when that Bandai Namco job listing or report came out, everybody jumped to Kid Icarus Uprising. That was like the agreed upon game that was probably happening. It does almost feel like a fake out, but maybe that's just wishful thinking. I think back to I can't remember exactly when it was, and this wasn't Sakurai, but I remember Aonuma said something about a Skyward Sword Switch version, and he said he wants it to happen, and then it was like a year and a half later it did happen. So I don't know if him saying hey, it'd be tough to do right now, I don't know if that's really deconfirmation of it being Kid Icarus, but I could see it going either way. I could also see it being that he's just YouTubing it now. Like that's all he does. Because I mean, he worked on Smash for what 10 years straight without a break.
Yeah, like he
So
jumped from B3 straight to Ultimate.
I could see him taking an extended break after that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, personally, it doesn't sound like it's coming for the current Switch, if at all. It'll be on the next hardware. That's what it sounds like. And obviously, it's kind of like we've been saying, it's kind of late in the lifespan. So anything that's going to be forward thinking years down the line, it's going to be for the next Switch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's interesting to me that he's mentioned this twice. Pretty close together. It's definitely something that I feel like he wants to do. And I feel like if you're Sakurai, Nintendo should be letting you do whatever you want. So I would hope that he would get to work on this, but we'll see. I'm curious if he will have anything to do with it if it does eventually come to pass either way. Because he doesn't.
Nintendo. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say he doesn't necessarily have to be associated with the project for it to happen.
Right. I was gonna say sometimes Nintendo will spring the whole. By the way, Smash Brothers is coming out for Switch too. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate Part 2, or something like that, and he'll be like, "What?" Because this happened before. I think it was with Brawl. Like they announced Smash before he even knew he was making it.
Dang.
So you never know. Sometimes they do things where he may have an idea that he wants to do some game like that, and then Nintendo be like, you know what, we want more money, so why don't you make the next Smash Brothers? Because Kid Icarus, obviously, that's not going to make them as nearly as much money as another Smash Brothers. But granted, that if he's retired from doing Smash Brothers, then we honestly don't know then at that point if he's really legit retired.
Yeah.
Curious if he's trained up anybody to like take over for him, or if that's even something he cares to do, or if he'll just pass it to somebody random. I feel like he wouldn't though. I feel like he would definitely like train somebody to like take on the core of Smash. I'm curious though. I can't see him having absolutely no involvement with the next Smash. That doesn't seem right to me. Especially because he's kind of saying he's like semi-retired, not fully retired. So I would imagine he would at least oversee stuff, even if it was kind of like he wasn't the only person like directing. I think he would like at least help.
You know what I think
curious.
would be a great idea? It would be to release Smash Ultimate on the Switch 2. Native 4K, 60 frames. Same. It doesn't have to have that big of a graphics update. Just higher resolution and rollback netcode with all the DLC intact. And then it'll be like Super Smash Brothers Ultra Ultimate or something, right? It doesn't have to have more work from Sakurai that way. And then they can actually have him work on something else, like a Kid Icarus, while they can continue to make money off of Smash Brothers on the next console with a rollback netcode to make it much more functional online. What do you guys think?
I think that's something that people that have been asking for with Smash Brothers, right? Like we want a more consistent online, because whenever I play online, it's a mess, right? I don't play online Smash. It just doesn't work, right? So yeah,
Right.
I think that would be nice. My perspective is that Nintendo needs to continue the Smash train, right? Like just because Sakurai retires doesn't mean Smash is done. Like no, that would be like Nintendo saying, "Hey, we're not going to do Mario Kart anymore." You kidding me?
Right.
They're going to follow up the most successful fighting game of all time. They're going to do that. That's a fact, by the way. Smash Ultimate for a single system is the best. I think it even might go beyond, like, for a single game, period, even across multiple platforms. Smash Ultimate is considered to be the best-selling fighting game of all time. So that's crazy, right? Like Smash Ultimate is a huge seller. They're going to make another Smash Bros. Some way or another. But I do kind of think you're on the right track, Dave, that Ultimate is going to be repurposed. I mean, you look at how they've handled Mario Kart. We've been playing the same Mario Kart since 2014.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ultimate takes a similar path. And maybe once Booster Course Pass is over, they announce Volume 3 for Smash Ultimate. And it's free with Nintendo Online, just so we have something else that kind of keeps us excited, keeps that conversation going for the next year or two. And it's also something that keeps people subscribed to Nintendo Online Plus. That way, you know, you can get that for free, like the Booster Course Pass. I kind of see that happening. If it's not Mario Kart, it's going to be something else, and there's not many other choices that would be as widespread, at least.
Yeah, you're totally right. They have to continue Smash. I think the obvious thing would be to bring Smash Ultimate over to the next console. I think Sakurai has to be involved though, just because he's so proud of what he's done with that game. I can't see him as a creative just stepping away and letting someone else just take over completely. I don't think he'll be like the primary director. I could see him supervising, like you're saying, Brandon, maybe training someone else while they add like maybe 5 characters to a new port of it, and then maybe from there you do a new season pass or something. But if we're getting Smash Ultimate Deluxe in the first year or two of the Switch 2, I think he's definitely involved with that.
Yeah. I mean, so I think there was an article. Yeah, there was an article. I looked this up for my video a few days ago. He is supposedly partially retired, right? As of the article that came out, I think December last year, he was 52, which is relatively young to retire. But of course, he's an incredibly successful creator. So if he wants to retire at 52, more power to him, right? But semi-retired isn't fully retired. He can still work on things. And we know he's working on his YouTube project. And I think what's interesting, at least about the Kid Icarus stuff, even if it means that we're not getting Kid Icarus anything really soon, it does at least show that he wants to still do Kid Icarus work. Like, he still has a passion for making games. It may not be as active. It may be in an overseeing role, as you guys brought up. But I definitely think he's going to be overseeing something. And what's interesting about that, right, is that you look at his YouTube channel, it's about teaching people about game development. So in a way, he's already starting to, you know, like, this is on a larger scale, but he clearly has his mind on raising up a newer generation to take on the mantle. Like, I think that's definitely part of his perspective. Will he have a more hands-on approach with, you know, like, maybe, like, the director for whatever the next project is that he oversees? I would like to think. So, yeah, I mean, I think Nintendo's going to follow up Smash in some way, shape, or form. I think he's going to oversee that. And I'm optimistic that eventually we're going to see Kid Icarus something. I think the interest he's shown in that, Brandon, as you said, like, Nintendo's not going to just, like, deny Sakurai, right? Like, Kid Icarus,
hopefully not.
I think a Kid Icarus remaster is a relatively low-risk thing. Like, it's probably not going to cost them that much to I mean, I'm sure it'll cost something, but my point is, if you look at other games Nintendo remasters, I don't think it's that much of an ask to have that remastered. And think that it's going to be a complete flop. Like, I'm not too concerned about it being a complete flop. Will it sell 10 million copies? Probably not. Maybe it'll sell like 1 million or 2 or something, but, you know, it'll probably be successful enough. So if it's something he really wants to do, I think it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, Kid Icarus is niche, but it's not, like, that niche. Didn't Kid Icarus Uprising sell, like, 3 million copies? Am I crazy?
It sold
It was a really popular 3DS game.
I think it's, like, arguably the best 3DS game.
I agree, yeah.
It just...
Yeah, this just hasn't sold over 1 million.
1 million is still pretty good, and there are more people on Switch, right? So a remaster could hit those numbers.
There's only, two Kid Icarus games? That one and the original? Is that true?
Yeah,
so.
That's true.
Oh, and on Game Boy.
Oh, there was a Game Boy one.
Yeah.
That one was...
We don't talk about that one.
Yeah, that's the dark
if it sold 1 million on 3DS, that's good. But yeah, I could see why they weren't like too excited to make another one, because it's like not like passing, you know, that milestone of like 2 or 3 million. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. And I would say it was an ambitious 3DS game, right? It was like, it was probably, I mean, as you just said, like, it's one of the most impressive games on Switch. Graphically, you know, there's a lot of voice acting in there, right? There's cutscenes. Like, it was not a cheap game for 3DS. So, but it was also really good. So hopefully Nintendo gets back to it. But do you guys have any other thoughts on what Sakurai may be working on? Any other random ideas beyond Smash or Kid Icarus? Kirby Air Ride 2?
Fire Emblem, didn't he? At one point.
Did he? I'm not.
I thought he had
maybe
a part in Fire Emblem too, but yeah, I don't. That's like not his baby or anything. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Kirby.
You might think of Kirby. Yeah, he could come back to Kirby.
Is it Kirby?
Yeah.
See, he made Kirby, so he stepped away.
Yeah, I think that's what you're thinking of. Yeah, he could go back to Kirby.
Did he have anything to do with Forgotten Land?
No, he stepped away from Kirby a long time ago.
Yeah, I think Air Ride was the last one, right?
I'm looking at his works. Okay, wow. It's telling me so he was a special advisor on Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. And the last game he directed that was Kirby Air Ride.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a long time
Oh,
ago.
it was Sakurai saying that there was too many Fire Emblem characters in Smash Bros. Okay, never mind.
Oh.
He does like
He's
Fire
like,
Emblem.
yeah, it's a bit
Pretty
too many.
true.
Yeah.
Few.
So it seems like Sakurai just moved away from Kirby. I mean, I think they're doing great with Kirby. Forgotten Land is
Oh, yeah.
an incredible game. So I think
Love that game.
they're headed in a good direction. But
I mean, honestly, I think the most exciting thing would be a new IP from Sakurai. That'd be ideal,
Ooh, yeah.
honestly.
he could be
Maybe
onto something
supervise
there.
Smash for a year or two while you're working on the back burner. Make a new IP. Nintendo needs those. That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know what that new IP could be, but something, anything.
No, yeah, I think that you could be right. That would be cool. I mean, he did make Meteos on the DS.
Yeah,
and that was pretty
classic.
cool. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he does. Whenever he makes something, I don't want to say he's made anything like incredibly revolutionary, but he'll take an already established genre and kind of flip it on its head a little bit. And so that's what's interesting about what he does, right? He has a certain style, and whenever you play a Sakurai game, you know, right? You look at those menus, you're like, yep, that's a Sakurai game, right?
Yeah.
So I would definitely be interested to see what else he does, because any game he does make is very good. So whatever it is, whenever it comes, however long it takes, I will be excited for it. So, but let's
Hopefully we aren't waiting too long.
hopefully not. Maybe they'll hold us off with some Smash DLC and a Kid Icarus remaster in the next couple of years.
Mhm.
He's a
But-
fan of Tekken and like the other
Yeah.
fighting games. I wouldn't mind seeing him make a different type of fighting game at some point too.
Okay.
That would be interesting. But yeah,
Oh no,
that'll never happen. But that's just one of those things.
I don't know.
I love Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 7 is awesome. Mortal Kombat, I'm a fan of those games. So like, I know Smash Bros is his thing, but I think it'd be a cool challenge for him if he's interested to make a more quote unquote traditional type of fighter and see what he can do with that. But
I think
you never
I
know.
feel like Nintendo wouldn't let him do it just because he'd be like, oh, if you're gonna work on fighting game, just work on Smash.
Well,
what are
I
you
guess
doing?
I guess the thing is
Exactly.
that
I
he
know,
doesn't
that's the
work for
problem.
Nintendo though, so he could do it if he wanted to, but Nintendo might not fund
True.
it. And he usually does work for Nintendo, so or work with Nintendo, I should probably say.
I guess we got close with Smash Ultimate with all those characters from Street Fighter and
True.
the other
Yeah,
franchises.
because you can
coming
put
in,
the
so-
command
Yeah.
inputs. So if you're
Yeah.
yeah.
Got
Um,
Terry in there.
Yeah, I'm not good at those kinds of fighting games, so like whenever I play as
No.
them, I can't fully utilize those characters because I can't do the command inputs right for whatever reason.
I like
recommend Street
Smash
Fighter
because I'm
6.
trash at fighting games.
Street Fighter 6 has some really like easy commands you can put in.
Okay.
As someone who also isn't good at traditional fighting games, that was a really good entry point for me. So
I mean,
if you're interested, definitely check it out.
I've always been able to do a Hadouken. Like I can do the down diagonal right. Like I can do that, but doing it in Smash Brothers is a little different. A little. But yeah, let's move on. I'll check in the chat here real quick, and then we'll get into something. Shout out to Paul Gale in the chat. Hello there, Lex. The Sweet Life of Dio Brando. The biggest problem with Smash will be licensing issues, probably. And that is kind of why I
Yeah.
think they maybe should just follow up Smash Ultimate with like an enhanced version or DLC or something, because there's like almost no way they're going to follow up Smash Ultimate like a brand new one and have the same amount of like maybe they could have the same amount of characters,
No.
but it will be different characters. I don't think they can bring in every single prior character. There's too many third-party relationships. And I think if Sakurai is not as involved or involved at all, that'll be even tougher because Sakurai doesn't directly work for Nintendo. I think part of the reason why Smash Ultimate can be what it is has a lot to do with Sakurai and how the industry respects him. So, and that's just my perspective. I could be wrong on that. Maybe Nintendo is good enough to get all those relationships involved without him. But I do feel like without Sakurai, it'll be even harder to get characters like Sora from Kingdom Hearts, right? Or Banjo-Kazooie from Microsoft. Like, that's tough. So I'm not sure. Of that said, right, like, I want to see more third-party characters. I actually was a proponent of getting Master Chief in Smash. I thought that made sense. Especially because we've heard at least rumors that maybe we could get like a Master Chief Collection on Switch or something. Like, I don't think that's completely out of the question. I think Microsoft and Nintendo work so well together that something like that could happen in the future. So I'm not saying the most newest Halo game, but I do think some of the older Halo games could come on Switch, or Switch 2 or whatever. So, you know, I could see Master Chief getting added. I don't think we'll ever see Kratos, though. I know people want Kratos in Smash
No.
Brothers. Sony does
would
not play
not let
nice.
that
Sony does not
happen.
play.
No.
Microsoft's over here like, oh, we don't even like the idea of console exclusives, and Sony's like, give us all of them, please. So yeah, I could see more Microsoft characters coming, but personally, I just want Doom Guy. Like, if you're gonna give me a Microsoft-owned shooter, like, give me Doom Guy.
If they're gonna put Doom Guy in there, they should put Scorpion and Sub-Zero for Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Get crazy with it.
Yeah,
Get some
Yeah, I
Resident Evil
mean-
characters in there.
make the Smash M-rated with
Yeah.
blood.
If they don't follow up Ultimate with a port and they can't get those characters, they might have to go crazier with the characters they do get in.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they either, you know, port Ultimate and keep that going, or I don't know what they do, reboot the whole series. Just
no.
try something completely, not completely different in terms of like mechanics, but like maybe in terms of like content. I don't know what they would do. A whole new roster. I mean, you got to keep the classics though, but I guess they would have to come up with new characters that would be just exciting. But I think the easiest thing, yeah, get around the copyrights and just port Ultimate, keep adding stuff. Hell, we could get Doom Guy and Sub-Zero and stuff if they port the game and add more DLC.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see.
I'm seeing some discussion in the chat about a Super Princess Peach. Having Hope is suggesting, what if we got like Super Princess Peach added to NSO? I think the
Is that a
problem.
Wii game?
No.
I think it was on DS, right?
Yes,
Or
a
3DS.
Oh,
DS
okay.
game. I'm pretty sure. So the problem with that is there are no DS games.
Have it right here.
There you
Nice.
go. That's it.
I
on
never
DS.
played it. I didn't even know it
Me neither.
existed.
I
till
bought
pretty
it because I
recently,
wanted to
be
play it.
honest.
Yeah.
Did
Was
you
that
buy
the
it
game?
after the Peach announcement or beforehand?
After. Right
Okay,
after.
so you're like, oh, there's another Peach game. Let me try this out. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I always wanted to play it when I was younger, but never got around to it.
Yeah. I didn't play it either. I've only seen like footage of it. So I don't know. I mean, my perspective, my assumption is based off what I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in the chat who has played through it or knows of it, but my perspective of Super Princess Peach is kind of like, it's a platformer with Peach, and she used hearts to attack. It's a more lighthearted platformer, is my perspective on it, right? Like, I think it'd probably fall in the category of like a Yoshi or a Kirby platformer. So I'm sure it will play a little bit differently because it's Peach. Now, this one that we're seeing for Switch, though, it seems like it has a little bit more dimension to it, because it looks like you can move back and forth from the foreground to the background somewhat. So it's not like a straight-up side-scroller. I don't know what that is going to be exactly for the gameplay. And I don't know if this is going to be considered to be like a spiritual successor to Super Princess Peach. I think the jury's still out on that. But I might be saying that due to my lack of knowledge of Super Princess Peach. So, take that for what you will. But I am excited for this Peach game. I think it's going to be a good time. It seems to be at least a little bit more unique compared to other. It's not a side scroller, right? So it seems to stand out a little bit more, I would say.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time telling what it is. We need to see more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't really know if it's a platformer, do we? I mean,
I assume
Yeah.
it is,
No,
but maybe it's not. Maybe it's Peach Dukem Nukem.
Yeah. All I know is that you can move in 3 dimensions, but the characters or the camera's like, still side scrolling kind of camera.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure like what you do, because it didn't seem like a platformer. Like they weren't like she wasn't like jumping around platforming and stuff.
It could even
She
be
was just
kind
like
of like
doing
Paper Mario,
stuff.
like gameplay wise, like it perspective wise, it actually might be more comparable to some of the Paper Mario games, right? Where you can't move around the camera, but you do have movement within the world that's more than just left and right. So I don't know what that means for
Yeah.
battle.
There's some kind of transformation she goes under, but I don't know what that means either.
Yeah, that's true. They did tease like a transformation. Like, what does that mean? I think it's definitely meant to kind of like take advantage of the excitement behind Peach in the movie, which is gonna be interesting to see how that pans out.
That's what that whole direct was.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Capitalizing the movie.
For sure. But I think this might be as good of a time as any to transition over to the Switch 2 conversation, because BoTalks last time.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Andres,
Go for it.
I need to go for just a second, just a minute. So just give me a second. I'll
Sure.
be right back. Okay.
Sure. No problem. No problem. Yeah, I'll just use this to kind of set up while he takes his break. Let's see here. We'll be fine. So yeah, like, when you came on last time, right? Like, we had some conversation about the Direct, right? And there's some debate on, does the Direct suggest that Switch 2 is around the corner? Does it not? Like, there's been this debate, right? And like, we're still having it. Every time there's a Switch 2 video, you see in the comments people are getting sick of it, right? Some people are like, why do you even bother talking about Switch 2? Like, it's time to just move on, or not move on, right? Just stick with Switch. Don't even worry about Switch 2 for another year or two or longer. But like, we talk about like this Peach game, for example, right? And that was probably maybe like the newest, most ambitious thing that they announced that's coming outside of this. I mean, there was only 2 games they announced in the Direct. That there was a Luigi game, which is a remaster, and then the Peach game, right? But then, like, you look over the numbers, right? There are more. I actually went and calculated it, because I know we talked about going and calculating like the amount of remasters compared to prior years.
Oh, sure.
Ratio wise, if we count Pikmin 1 and 2, we're over 50%, and all prior years is the highest we would get to would be 29 or 30, and some years it was way less than that. And that's including like ports and stuff, like Wii U ports and stuff, like just basically like any sort of enhanced remaster or port or remake in comparison to new published
Even
Nintendo titles.
2018.
Even 2018.
I
Interesting.
think 2018 was the 30%.
Yeah. Let me.
It was lower percents for the other years.
Yeah, what Mario Tennis Aces,
Yeah.
our allies.
Yeah, I had a.
It's a rough year.
Here it is. I have the percentages, right? So 2017, there were 11 Nintendo published titles, right? And this is accounting like all over across the world, right? 2017 had 2 remaster ports. One of them was Mario Kart Deluxe, and then there was the Pokken Tournament, right? So that's at 18%. 18% of the games released then were ports and remasters. 2018, which was my ratio is 18 to 4, right? So 22% were ports and remasters. 2019, of the 17 published titles, 2 fell in that category, 11%, right? 2020, 30%, which makes sense given the pandemic year. They needed to rely on more things like that. 2021, it was 29%. 2022, it was 8%. And then 2023, if you count Pikmin 1 and 2 individually, it's 54%. And if Nintendo announces another title for September as a GameCube Shadow Drop, then we'll be like talking about like 58% or something, right? And if it's like
Are you counting Mario RPG?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm counting remakes, remasters, and ports into that percentage, right?
Right. Okay.
And so, even if you count Pikmin 1 and 2 as just one title, or if you count them as 0, we're in the 40% range, which is still higher than any prior year on Switch. So the ultimate point to make there is just there's this indication that if you just look at the kind of content Nintendo's putting out, it's clear that Nintendo is putting out a little bit more remasters, remakes, and enhanced ports this year compared to the not just in terms of ratio, right? Their overall output. So is that a sign for something? I mean, it's potentially, right? It could just be an aberration. But when you account for the other things going on, it makes you wonder, right? Because Nintendo's forecasting 15 million Switches sold this year. So that'll be the lowest yet, right? We've already seen a couple down years in a row. I think this will be the 3rd down year in a row, if they truly hit that 15 million. And usually, hardware is announced, if not after the first dip, the second dip, they announce something, right? Now, Nintendo has quicker turnarounds now, so that can make that a little bit misleading. But the indication is that by that historical precedent, we shouldn't be that far off. And then you also account for just kind of like all these different things popping up from these different insiders. There is the report, or I should say rumor, of the dev kit being out there. Like Universal Nintendo said that they heard of that, and they were right about the Direct, for example. So that kind of seems to add more credence to it. NW Player 123, who people seem to respect, and seems to have a good track record with some of these things, is saying that they're.
Hold on. Who said the first part? Who said the first rumor about the dev kit?
So the initial rumor, I believe, was coming from the person who initially talked about Metroid Dread. Right.
Oh.
Okay. So they said that they heard a dev kit's coming from Spain, and then some others came out to sort of say we've heard something similar, and and Universal Nintendo was one of them.
Well, here's the. I mean, not to say that they're right or wrong, but like,
Sure.
it just, that whole thing seems like stating the obvious at this point, because like as other people have brought out that dev kits usually go out at least a year in advance to a lot of these companies, and for the Spanish site just to be like, yeah, the Mercury's team has a dev kit. Well, probably, of course they do, right? And also about that Metroid Dread thing. Metroid Dread was announced back in 2004. And it was rumored, I think before 2020, before that individual talked about Metroid Dread, it was rumored that they were going to be rebooting an old canceled game from the DS. And even I tweeted out, hey, let's bring back Metroid Dread in 2019. So it's like, I don't know how much weight you want to put in that particular rumor, but either way, chances are, the dev kits are out there at this point, and the console's coming within the year for that particular rumor. And as far as NW Player and Nikki, that's their name. I've known about them since before since the NX days, and they're into like data mining and stuff like that, and various just talking about rumors and stuff. So that's another very sketchy source right there as well. But anyway, I just want to
Sure.
see where that put my 2 cents in on that first one. But go ahead.
No, yeah, I'm just bringing up different people who may know something. It's kind of coming out around a similar time, right? And as you correctly noted, right, like just because they say something and they may have gotten something right doesn't mean they for sure know everything, right? And even if they did, the people who we know for a fact know things, they still get things wrong, right? So you gotta take it with a grain of salt, no matter what. But you do have these different people coming out there. And then recently we've heard about this potential manufacturing thing where they might have Switch 2 coming out Q1, which there's some room for interpretation there. Does that mean that it's coming out Q1 calendar or Q1 fiscal? So there's some wiggle room there, but if like Nikkei, right, not to confuse with Nikki on Twitter, but Nikkei, I think they put out a report a few months ago that they were estimating hardware to come out summertime next year, which could fit into that Q2 calendar, Q1 fiscal. If we're talking about like Q1 calendar though, if that's what it is, as there's like there seems to be a lot of smoke recently, then that would imply Nintendo has to announce this thing before the end of this year. Is that feasible? Does that make sense? What do you guys think?
You want to go first?
Sure. I go back and forth on this because, as I said on the podcast 2 weeks ago, Andres, I could see it coming in late 2024. I've been saying early 2025, and I know that's further out than most people. But either way, we're all in agreement with it. Within the next 18 months at the absolute most. Like, it's not going to be later than that, for sure. Starting to lean a little bit more towards like that summer to fall 2024 timeframe, but we'll see. It coming out in Q1 2024, I don't know. I just feel like, do you launch a 2D Mario 3 months before a new piece of hardware? Wouldn't you say that as a launch title? I guess the counterpoint could be it's backwards compatible. It doesn't really matter. They could have a patch, all these things. Maybe they want to separate Mario Bros. Wonder from a new 3D Mario coming out next year. That's also totally possible. But I just feel like that's weird to have that new 2D Mario that will probably sell 20 million copies right? Especially if we're assuming they announce the next console in September, October, right before the holiday season, right when you're ramping up sales for this new 2D Mario. Announcing a new console could potentially hurt that. So I don't know how I feel about Q1, but if we're hearing reports about dev kits being sent out, and manufacturing happening and all that, mid-summer, summer, fall 2024, I think it's possible. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, so my thought on that is yes, an announcement is possible this year, not a release. I think a release would, if it's coming out Q1 2024, then and I realize lots of people will automatically say, well, Nintendo's releasing games this year, so they would never announce a Switch 2. Well, they release games all the time. Like there's never going to be a good time to announce this console with that mentality, right? It's a new platform. You're going to have overlap of games that are going to be probably playable on the new console. So it doesn't matter, when they announce it. It's never going to be a good time for people who are like extreme like Switch fans.
Right.
Also for the fact that they didn't announce Super Mario Odyssey 2, the next big mainline 3D Mario game. The fact that they've already released a 2D Mario port for the new Super Mario Brothers games, and it looks like this game, Mario Wonder, looks very similar to a new Super Mario Brothers type of game. It looks like they're selling this game to the current Switch audience who already own the Switch. So the current Switch. So
Right.
whether or not like that coincides with them announcing their next console, it looks like they're leaving the opening there, because the people who already own the current Switch, they have a game that's going to be purposed and made for them with this Mario Wonder game. And if they announce a new Switch, guess what? It's going to run on the new Switch too. So either way, Nintendo wins. So like, this is all about selling software for them, not necessarily about selling hardware. Even Furukawa even said that they're not confident they can even hit their 15 million goal. And they knew about these games coming out this year. So what does that tell you? It looks like they're gearing up to announce their next console and transition over. Plus, selling lots of games. I think Mario Wonder is going to sell like millions and millions and millions, like probably like 25 million. But guess what? The current Switch has already sold 130 million consoles out there. It's going to sell to the current audience, right? Like bam, instantly, just like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom did that like just right away. So either way, I don't think it necessarily will play a factor. Like if they have a goal to hit for the first fiscal year, or the first quarter of 2024, then they're going to have to announce this console by the end of 2023 to gear up for that, to keep the momentum going, because they don't really have much to push their momentum in 2024 right now, besides a Metroid Prime 4 and maybe the next 3D Mario game, right? But generally speaking, they have one big 3D Mario game on their console. So it all points to them releasing it next year. And yeah, I think it's possible they could announce it this year, leading into next year, if it's released in the first part of 2024. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, for sure. Now, to play a little bit of devil's advocate, and I'll probably be playing devil's advocate in several directions throughout this discussion, just for the record. But
we always do.
But I saw someone make a very interesting observation. We lost.
Am I black? Have I gone black?
You are a
My
black
camera's
screen.
off for some reason.
Yeah, you've gone dark.
Fall into the pit.
You can hear me though, right?
I can hear you. Yeah, we can
he's
hear
undercover.
you. Yeah,
He went into the depths.
yeah. Guys, if you like the stream,
Find a light route.
it'll bring BoTalks back. It will be very much appreciated. It'll at least help out the show. Oh look!
There he is.
Look, by liking
That was weird.
Now, like it so he doesn't go away, please. It'd be very helpful. But anyways, what I was gonna say is that I noticed some making an observation that we've seen new 2D not new 2D, just new mainline Mario consistently every 2 years over the last decade or so. So this year we're getting Mario Bros. Wonder. It's 2023. We go back to 2021, we got the Bowser's Fury. We go back to 2019, we got Mario Maker 2. Go back to 2017, it was Mario Odyssey. We go back to 2015, I think that was Mario Maker 1. and then 2013 was Super Mario 3D World. So there's this observation that suggests that maybe every 2 years we're getting mainline Mario, something new. So that would suggest that we're not going to get a mainline new Mario something until 2025. And my belief is that there's got to be a new 3D Mario out on Nintendo's next new system within, if not at launch, like really soon. So if that pattern holds, I think that would imply that maybe Switch 2 comes out 2025. I don't believe that is what's going to happen, but I do think it's interesting to consider that Nintendo may want to space out their new Mario content, and it may be the case that we have to wait a little bit longer. But, you know, as Dave noted, right, like the Switch software sales are great, but hardware sales are trending downwards. And it's if we're going down by 3 to 4 million every year, or maybe it's even more of like a faster downward trend, right? Like I think 18 million was like the last. Is that how much we sold this past fiscal year? About 18, or was it 20?
Yeah, I think it's about 18.
So they were forecasting 3 million less.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean, so if they go another fiscal year, it may be less than 12. It might be 10 or 9, right? Like there may be more of a downward slope. So I think it would be, I don't know, it might be kind of risky to wait all the way till holiday 2025 to release new hardware.
Which Mario game released in 2021? Did you say? What was that?
It was Bowser's Fury, which was
did you
extra
really count that?
This is the observation I saw. Again, I'm playing devil's advocate.
Okay.
I wouldn't consider that a full-on new
You're
Mario
the
game.
devil.
I mean, I wouldn't consider Mario Maker 1 or 2 to be mainline Mario games either.
Yeah,
to be
Mario
fair.
Maker is not a mainline Mario game either. That's true. And is Super Mario Wonder a mainline Mario game? I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
it is
Yeah,
for
I would-
2D.
Yeah, that, I would say that definitely is. I think, you know, if you, it is a very wide, that is, you know, being very open and broad about what is considered mainline Mario, if you want to believe this pattern.
Because Mario
I
wears
mean,
lots of different caps. No pun
Mario
intended.
Maker plays like mainline 2D Mario,
Yeah.
so I guess that counts more than like. It's not as absurd as saying like Mario Kart's mainline or something like that.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
ridiculous.
It's more like a tool.
It should also
Yeah.
it should also be noted that Mario Maker came out like 5 months after New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe in 2019.
Yeah,
Weird.
I
remember
was
that,
gonna
yeah.
point this out. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's two 2D Mario games extremely close together.
So that'll be 3 2D Mario games in 4 years.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
break it down like
Close
that.
to 5. Close to 5. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on how you look at it, like that's not really, that's pretty good. So yeah, I mean, it's just an observation. My perspective is the pattern is not correct, and 3D Mario is coming out next year. I do believe that, but I do think that Mario Wonder does imply that Mario Odyssey 2, or whatever they call the next 3D Mario, is not coming out this March. I don't see that happening. Like, I think that's too short of a gap. I think we would be. I mean, I think the earliest we see a new 3D Mario would be summer, but I think realistically we're looking at like a September to November window for 3D Mario. Do you guys
Yeah.
agree with that?
Well, if you
Yeah.
look at the Super Mario Odyssey, it came out October 2017, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at Nintendo's, if you take away all these other games that they're making, their mainline 3D Mario game, it's already been 6 years. So I would say it is due for a mainline 3D Mario game to be next year, honestly, because the timing, that like Super Mario Galaxy was 2007, Galaxy 2 is 2010, right?
Yep.
Super Mario 3D World was 2013.
Yeah.
Mario Odyssey 2017. So yeah,
Right.
they are
3 to 4
well overdue.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're overdue, man.
Worth pointing out that Bowser's Fury, I believe, was developed by NST, so not like the core 3D Mario team within APD.
Interesting.
But something else worth noting too is about Mario Odyssey 2, if we're calling it that, coming out in March, next spring, 2024. I'm assuming this Luigi's Mansion remaster and that Peach game would also be in the first half of next year. based on
Yeah,
how
I
they
would
announced them.
assume.
So I don't know if they would want to release both of those and Mario Odyssey 2 all within 6 months. That seems like a lot of Mario property.
especially we also
Congested
count
closely.
We haven't mentioned Mario RPG, which comes out in November, right? Like, yes, different
Right.
genres but it's all Mario, very close to home Mario IP.
Seems like they would definitely want to push 3D Mario to the holiday.
Right. So
'Cause, I mean, I've been speculating they're going to launch in the holiday anyways. I have not gotten any information that has made me change my mind. I don't see them just pushing it out. I see them waiting basically as long as they can to launch it at like the perfect window. Because I think they really need this launch to go like really good. And I don't see... I mean, they're clearly not rushing to get out a new console. Otherwise, they would have had it out like last year to try to compete more with like the new systems or something.
yeah, I
But,
think they're more worried about their own sales. They're not too concerned about the competition. That's what it feels like to
No.
me.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. Not to say they're not competing. They are competing, FTC, but they're more concerned with providing their new hardware based off their own trends and what they're prepared to do. Is my assumption. But
Yeah, like
on.
Luigi's, what was it, Dark Moon, that port?
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a port in the Princess Peach game. Who knows what that is? We don't even know. Like, obviously, that is not an IP that's gonna sell a whole bunch. Like, it never. Princess Peach. I mean, how much did
I
it
don't
sell
know.
in DS? Right? I don't know.
It might sell
It-
better just because the popularity from the Mario movie potentially.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I could see that selling more than some of Nintendo's other B titles. Like,
I think around Paper
Like-
Mario sales numbers, right? Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just don't see those two games making much of a factor with mainline 3D Mario. Like, yeah, I mean, they would release them not the same day, of course, but they've spaced out games, month and next month type stuff in the past. So like, I don't only see the, like, when you're thinking about mainline 3D Mario, you're thinking of some of the greatest games of all time, right? So Mario
Yeah.
Odyssey is a 97 on Metacritic. Like,
Right.
that is no small game.
it might
Like,
be
it
the
does,
game
like,
of the year next year.
clear the way. Here is Mario's next game, the real thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all this other stuff is nice, but it's not the real deal.
So
That's true.
what I want to kind of focus on, right, is just more so because we're hearing this Q1 thing, right? Like, let's just entertain the possibility, right? If it's true, what would they do? I don't think... I think if it's Q1, I think that implies another March release, right? And if that's the case, I do find it hard to believe that they would put 3D Mario in March. I feel like they would save that for, say, October. Which I think opens the door for something else to kind of come out then. And I'm going to throw out Metroid Prime 4 because I think it would be a good showcase for the hardware. But I understand that it's not as big of a seller, so does it make sense to be a console pusher? Maybe not. And then
But
you also...
does it, though?
Well, hear me out for a second, right? I think
Yeah.
it's based
I'll
off...
let you finish your point, but I kind of want to argue Metroid Prime 4 for you.
Okay, sure. But just let me finish my point, right?
Right.
I think it depends on how Nintendo's transitioning and how they're marketing. I think that impacts a lot of how they do things. Because some might say it doesn't make sense to announce the Switch 2 this year right before the holiday because that would impact sales. But if they're pushing games like Mario RPG and Mario Wonder, which are great games, but they're not like, oh, I need to play this in 4K kind of games, right? It doesn't... If the Switch 2 is being positioned as kind of more of like a premium system at first, like for more of the core... the very hardcore Nintendo fans that want better visuals, because they're not going to sell 30 million pieces of Switch in the first year, right? They're gonna at launch it's going to be a few million, and then
Pieces of Switch, I like that.
pieces of Switch, exactly, right?
Piece of
Not again.
Switch.
Guys, please like the stream. BoTalksGames is being taken
Summon
out.
me back. Oh, what's going
You're
on?
not liking the stream enough, guys. He disappeared.
Yes, please.
Gotta
We-
make a summoning circle in my living room real quick. Hold on.
We need him
It's like
back.
Toss out the candles.
It's like Back to the Future. Marty's disappearing out of the photo.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
You need to believe in his existence for him to return to reality. There we go.
Oh,
There we go.
I have no
Yeah.
idea what's going on.
I don't know.
Sorry
I
about
already
that.
like the stream. Okay, got it.
Time traversal madness.
I took your tech issues. Andres.
That's it. Yeah,
Show 'em.
MVP, bro. Thanks. At least the stream's not crashing, so that's a W. But anyway, so the point I'm making here, right, is that if Nintendo is going to treat the Switch 2 as more of a premium system at first, because they're not gonna, they're gonna be reliant on Switch to make the bulk of their software sales at first. So it's gonna be a couple of years of transition. So if they're gonna have more of a smoother transition, maybe they don't launch with an exclusive 3D Mario immediately after. Maybe they give it like 9 months to build a little bit of an install base first, and then they put that out there. But they're going to need hard software in the meantime to slowly build up those numbers. I mean, they did push Metroid Dread with OLED. So that may have been a bit of a testing ground at the time. And Metroid Dread actually did pretty good. 3 million is no slouch, right? So if you factor that in, and you also consider the possibility, I understand that at their recent investors meeting, they said that they had no price drop plans, but that can always change. Like, they didn't have plans at the time, but 2 weeks later, they were like, "Oh, well, maybe we should have plans," right? Like, they could conceivably drop the price of the Switch this holiday, which would then position them to have a more expensive piece of hardware come out early next year, and then maybe Prime 4 could be positioned as something that showcases that hardware to maybe help push like a 4 to 5 million to close out the fiscal year, and then they have other pieces of games coming out throughout the year, building up that install base, and then come holiday time, they are ready to push out 3D Mario to really rake it in by the end of next year. I don't think that's impossible, but it really comes down to how Nintendo wants to market and handle this transition. Is that crazy?
No. You I was telepathically beaming the information to you. We were linked there.
We were telepathy, time travel.
On the same fucking page, bro. Okay. We were so synced.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if they do a smoother transition, firstly, I don't think there's going to be a ton of exclusive Nintendo games. I think there's going to be a lot of cross-gen Nintendo games, especially with the types of games Nintendo makes. I feel like it's very easy for them to still run perfectly fine on Switch and just have a better version on Switch 2 and maximize the software sales for the first couple of years of Switch when, the Switch 2 install bases. Because if you have Switch 2, exclusive games, what are they going to sell? Like a couple million? Even like the big 3D Mario would only sell a few million because they'd only have so many people to sell to. Whereas you could have a 20-30 million seller if you also release that on the Switch at the same time. So I think Metroid Prime 4 actually could be a decent launch title because, I mean, the people who buy day one are going to be the hardcore Nintendo fans, the people who really want to see like what Switch 2 can do, more so than the casual type of audience. So I feel like if you show them, because Retro Studios always pushes hardware. We see Metroid Prime remastered on Switch, one of the best looking Switch games, and that's just a remastered GameCube game. I can't imagine what they're going to be doing with Metroid Prime 4, where they're actually building the entire game with that engine in mind. I think it's going to be a big showcase, so it could be a game that comes out before, at launch, just to sell and show off the system, show off what it's capable of. Because you don't really need a 3D Mario at launch, because I don't think you're not going to need that to drive sales yet.
Yeah. And, just to throw out another little nugget, though, right? Like, while I am trying to kind of paint a picture where maybe these rumors are true, that they are aiming for a Q1 release, like, they could also have a plan like that's similar to this and just announce the Switch 2 early next year and have it come out in summer, release Prime 4, and then 3D Mario in the holiday. Or,
to be fair, I don't think it's going to come out Q1, by the way. I'm just kind of humoring the idea.
Yeah, I'm humoring the idea too. I think we need more compelling evidence to be like, yeah, this is for sure happening. But I do think I mean, it's obviously worth the consideration in my mind, because I wouldn't bring it up otherwise.
Right.
Basically, the only thing you need to know is, hey, Nintendo announces it. Oh, okay, it's coming out Q1. That's basically it at this point, because we're getting towards the end of towards the end of this year. All people can rumor as much as they want at this point. It's not going to matter. Right. I've been saying this for months. Nintendo just needs to announce it, and then we'll know exactly when it's coming out. But interesting thing you said about Andres about the sales for the Switch. it's been on this downward trend of dropping by 3 million or so.
Yeah.
So do you really realistically think that Nintendo won't announce their next console by next year? Because like if they say, hey, we're only expecting 11.5 million Switches to sell this next fiscal year, we'd be like, what are you doing? Where's your next console?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
they sold almost 29 million Switch units in the fiscal year 2021, guys. We are drastically below that at this point. So yeah, they are definitely gearing up to announce their next Switch. Anybody who doesn't think they're going to be doing that is crazy at this point, because you can't let that number drop that close all the way down there. Plus, in 2017, when Nintendo released the Switch, it was only on the market for I think it was March, right? So they released it in March, and then by the next time they reported, by the start of the next year, they'd already sold over 10 million Switch consoles in a very short time period. So I think I forgot your name, I'm sorry. Without the camera on. Sorry about that. Brandon, yeah, you were saying that, that they needed to the next Switch won't sell that as much, of course, at launch as the Switch that's already on the market is. But you got to remember too, like you have evergreen titles, so like Metroid Prime 4 and the next Mario game, the original Breath of the Wild has sold like over 20 million copies, right? So like these games will sell throughout the entire life of this next console. And plus the Switch 2, if they sell 10 to 12 million in the first year, guess what? It's going to pick up that slack of where the current Switch has dropped to 12 million likely the next year. You see what I mean? So like you got a perfect timing here for them to release their next console and pick back up that slack and then move forward. So if they do want to start the same trend as they did in 2017, then they could actually be saying, hey, we're going to go full bore, March 2024. Here's the Kingdom port in HD, 60 frames per second or more HD, like 1440p, 60 frames per second, whatever. Extra content included, and Metroid Prime 4 is coming out a few months later, and then the holiday is the next Mario game, and the next 3D Mario game. Plus, here's these Switch games that you played last couple years who have been ported or patched to run in higher resolutions and higher frame rates. That's all people want, and that thing's going to sell like hotcakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple things I want to bring up real quick. I'll let you go, Brian. I just wanted to bring a couple things. One, I do think it's interesting that, like, some people are concerned about this next system performing really well, but I think something that we should take into consideration is that there's pretty much no way this is going to be another Wii U situation. Even if what they present is kind of a wonky, weird idea that's not promoted well, if it's their singular platform, I think it's probably going to still at least do decent. Because Nintendo handheld sales have always been good. Even their I think the 3DS, I mean, the Game Boy Advance I think was a little bit worse, but they also had a short lifespan. They kind of like jumped to DS really quick. But the point is, even their if we just look at just handheld sales, if that's like their minimum, they're gonna be fine. But this is a combined market now, right? So I think as long as Nintendo continues to come out with consistent games, which is easier for them because they're focused on one platform, they're gonna have consistent games coming out. And I think the hardcore Nintendo fan base is bigger than some people realize. And I think that, look at Switch sales now. A big part of its success may just be that they're focusing their audience on one platform. So even if the next system is a little weird or wonky, I'm not really too concerned about its success, because I think as long as Nintendo brings out the games, most of that fan base is going to be there. But the other thing I wanted to point out real quick, because I think it was maybe a rhetorical question, but it was just kind of interesting to me, is that how Switch sales have been kind of going up and down, right? And it seems like last few years it's been going downwards. So what's interesting is that there's kind of two patterns, but they're kind of go against each other here, right? We have the pattern of sales trending downwards the last few years, and historically that's meant that new hardware is about to be announced, if not announced already. But this other pattern I brought up about the Mario thing suggests new Mario something every 2 years, and if you assume 3D Mario has to come out the first year of the system, that would imply Switch 2 comes out 2025. Which pattern is more likely to be right? If there's one pattern that has to break, because they both can't match up, right? Like, it's either 2025 or 2024, it seems like, right? which one seems more realistic, the Mario pattern or the hardware? And now, that neither guarantees what's going to happen, but like, what would you assume is a more likely pattern to rely on? Consistent hardware sales kind of going downwards, or this 2-year Mario thing that would imply that maybe that's when the next Mario comes, potentially also the next new system?
I think both the 7-year gap of no Mario, no 3D Mario, plus the hardware sales trend points to next year, in my opinion. It's more likely.
Yeah, 3D Mario is interesting because, I mean, if you had asked me in 2020 if we were getting a new 3D Mario, I would have said yes. I mean, everybody was like, oh, Odyssey 2. So it's one of those things we've just been, oh, there I go again.
Guys, like the stream. Please.
It's one of those things where, like,
don't hit the dislike, hit the like button, guys. You guys are doing it wrong.
You're messing it up.
It's the thumbs up, guys.
I don't know what's going on with my camera.
Bring Botox back, please.
Hashtag. Get the hashtag trending on Twitter. Let's go.
We need Bo.
Apparently, it cuts his voice out too. You see that when he goes black, it's just like his voice is gone too.
Weird.
Oh, he's back.
There we go.
I'm back though.
All right, good. So what were you saying?
What was I saying? Oh, yeah, 3D Mario is weird because like a couple years ago I would have said, oh yeah, and then we got Bowser's Fury, and even after that I was still like, okay, maybe 2022, early 2023, a 3D Mario, and that just has not happened. So I think at this point I've still seen people saying like, oh, it's gonna be safe for Switch 1. Even you just now, Brandon, were saying that you think it'll be cross-gen. I don't think so. I think the next 3D Mario would be exclusive. I don't think them worrying about, it's like what Dave was saying, they're evergreen titles. Odyssey 2, if we're calling it that, it might not sell as well as it could if it was on both, but it will be selling for the next close to a decade. So I don't think it'll be on Switch 1, and so it could be next year for sure.
I feel like it would only not be on Switch 1 if they were doing something that like wouldn't let them, like hardware wise, it would be really hard. Like if the game had to be 30 FPS on the original Switch, I don't think they would do that. But I mean, if I don't see them doing some concept that's so crazy that they couldn't run it on Switch, so I don't see why they would.
I feel like you could make that argument for a lot of Nintendo games though, like almost all of them. So at one point you cut that off. I mean, it's the same thing that was happening with PS4 and PS5. Why is Sony still releasing God of War, Ragnarok, and Horizon? They're selling
because it sells. They want the software
but they
sales.
sell much worse than the PS5 versions. So like, yes, they're still selling, and I'm sure it was still worth it. But at some point, you have to cut that off to get the casual market to buy the new console. You know,
I think if we compare, I don't think comparing Sony is a very good idea personally. Just because they had an issue with the PS5 not being in stock. They weren't able to produce on the PS5, so it made sense to them to release it on PS4. So if Nintendo does have that problem with the Switch 2, I could see them try to actually go out of their way to make more games cross-gen for the Switch 2. But as you were saying, at some point they need to push their next hardware to sell that hardware. You don't want to say like, hey, here's Mario on the old Switch and the new Switch. You want them to. They're going to want to push that hardware so it's evergreen. They're going to sell that hardware based on that game for the next 7 years. So people buy a Switch for Mario Odyssey. They buy a Switch for Breath of the Wild. Yeah, it was on Wii U, but the Wii U was dead already for like a year when they released that game. So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, same thing. Evergreen titles sell that hardware. So it's one of those things they have to decide which are going to be cross-gen. And I do think since I've got questions about this all the time about Metroid Prime 4. They've already announced Metroid Prime 4 for the current Switch, guys.
Oh yeah, they have to release it for the current Switch.
More than likely, since they haven't announced it on anything else, it's going to be released on the Switch OG. Will they have an I keep saying HD, but will they have a graphically
4K
enhanced version for the next Switch? Most likely, yes. So it's one of those things that they have to weigh each title accordingly as to what they're going to do for them financially. So if it's more beneficial to release one game on both systems, they'll do it. But it all depends on how much demand there is for that game. And Metroid Prime 4 could really benefit from having those sales from the current Switch. But a next mainline Mario game, that's going to sell that hardware. So like that's why they can be 100% confident it's only on Switch 2.
Yeah, I know I've been kind of like the last few months been thinking, all right, sometime in 2024, but I'm not sure when. And maybe this is just, because I want it to happen, but I am starting to feel like Metroid Prime 4 is coming out before 3D Mario, and it's going to be cross-gen, which would imply that, Prime 4 would 3D Mario is not the launch day title,
Yeah, I mean, if Mario, I could definitely see it being exclusive if it's not the launch game, especially if it comes out in like March. The system comes out in March and they're selling it in October. I could see that being a lot more likely. I do feel like if it's a day one game, it might be available on both. But I kind of do see you guys' points of it selling like the hardware in the future. My point was like they don't need to sell hardware. They don't need that game to sell hardware. They don't need to be exclusive at launch because people are going to buy the hardware anyways. I'm 100% confident that it's going to be sold out for the first few months of its release, no matter what they do. But yeah, if they're releasing Mario like months later, then yeah, I could see it being exclusive a lot more easily.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm putting up a poll. Does Switch 2 get announced this year, released next year? Yes or no? Let me know what you guys think. Any final points you guys want to make?
I'm gonna say on that point, I still think they're gonna announce it early next year.
Mm-hmm.
They might announce it before the end of the fiscal year so that they have, something to talk about on their projections, and they're not just like, hey, yeah, we're gonna sell 10 million Switches. We'll tell you later how we're gonna solve that problem. I feel like maybe they would want to announce it before their first like big quarter starts for the year.
I thought it was supposed to get announced this month, Andres. What happened? You didn't put the poll for July?
Honestly, I think if
don't
it's not
believe that.
announced this month, it's not happening this year. I feel like they're gonna announce it this month, maybe next month, but no later than that. If it's not announced by the end of August, I have zero confidence in it being announced anytime this year.
I think
And I have like barely any confidence for August.
Yeah, I think
Did we already talk about how these rumors have got out of control for this thing?
We could dance around that for a bit, sure, or on it, in it, within it, all around it.
Dancing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I think I guess everyone has a slightly different perspective on it. Rumors don't bother me, right? But I've also made it my job to kind of talk about this stuff all the time, right? So when I see like a YouTube video that says, "Oh, crazy Switch 2 news," that doesn't bother me personally because I'm like, okay, there's a rumor. Let's see what it is. Okay, maybe, but also maybe not, right? So that's kind of my perspective on things. But other people are like, hey, this is misleading. Screw that. This is not real. And, so I think everyone just kind of has a little bit of a different perspective on it. Everyone's colored a little bit differently. I think, however you choose to enjoy this information, so be it. But I will tell you this. I don't like misinformation, right? I'm not saying I'm perfect, right? I'm not saying I get everything right. I do not get everything right. But I try to be as honest and forthcoming as possible, right? And I do think sometimes things come up and it can maybe send people down one direction, right? So, like, for example, the NX2 thing, right? I did talk about it in a video, but that wasn't the main point of the video. And in the video, I suggested that we don't really have any information to suggest this is real. I think this is fake. And as it turned out, it is fake, right? Like, people who actually have access to the Nintendo developer portal have confirmed that it is not there. That was a Photoshop job, which is a very easy Photoshop job, and there you go, right? But sometimes you'll see some people get really excited about this. They don't really consider the possibilities of it being fake, and they roll with it. But yeah, that's just kind of life, right? Like, it happens in every medium. People see things, they believe it. Other people hear about it, they believe it. They don't fact check, and that's how these things happen. So it is. I do think we have to be careful, but it's also kind of fun.
All right. So for me personally, I've talked about this at length on my live streams. I I don't care about whatever any YouTube content creator wants to make. That's up to them. That's fine. The issue I have is that when it affects people from watching my content about the same topic.
Okay.
Because guess what? My content is totally different from these guys who just post all these, like whatever is posted on Reddit, they'll make a video about it. Whatever's on 4chan, they make a video about it. Whatever's on Twitter, they make a video about it. Whether it's fake or not, they just do it. So like for me, when I do a video on Switch 2, I'll always get a comment or two in there that says, "Oh, another Switch 2 video. I'm tired of this stuff." And it's like, it affects everybody when people post a bunch of fake information, because guess what? Maybe you want to watch my video because I'm not that type of content creator who just wants to put fake information out there, or not necessarily fake, but just any information out there, whether it's true or fake. I actually want to have some information that's real in my content, which is what the last video I did was real information. So it's like, people still complain that's another Switch 2 video just because they're tired of seeing all these Switch 2 videos, because it's always the same type of stuff.
I do hear you on that, actually, because that actually that does impact me too. I will tell you, whenever I make a Switch 2 video, listen, last week I made like 3 different Switch 2 videos, but I thought there were different things happening with some semblance of credibility, right? But if it was just like the NX2 thing that we knew was fake, I wouldn't have done it. Right? There was other things. And that's why I did it. I talked about multiple things that came up, right? Like the NW player, for example, Nate the Hate said some things as well. So I was like, all right, I'll combine this, talk about what's going on, right? And then I did notice the comments were pretty toxic. And I think it is because, to your point, there is a lot of that discussion, and not everyone is as careful about presenting accurate information and deeming it as speculation, rumor, fact, or not. And I do think that does contribute to the toxicity of the overall, community.
People tend to go for clickbaiting and just trying to get as many views as possible with the story, or trying to make it seem more real than it is. I hate that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I don't want to be associated with those channels at all. I want to have my content stand out separately. And it's really difficult to do that. If you put Switch 2 in the title, it's easy for you to get lumped in with those other channels. So it's nice, I'm thankful the majority of my audience understands that, but it's just, it makes it difficult to create videos on the topic because there's so much misinformation out there, and they go wild with it. Like, big news, Switch 2 is going to be announced this month. Or it's dev kits are out there, and the Switch 2 leaked. It's all this stuff. It's like,
I've seen people say that the Switch 2 is going to be as powerful as an Xbox Series S.
I mean, we don't know what that is. I mean, I think that's just speculation. I don't even know if that's a legit rumor by anybody, but
I mean, it's definitely not, because it's physically impossible.
Well, we'll see what happens with the technology, but yeah. Anyway, the thing is that the information out there is so oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Guys out there in the chat, audience, everything, you got to remember to I'm not talking about you guys here, but to the generalized YouTuber out there, this is a business for them. So the Switch 2 is big business. So anything Switch 2, because they know Switch users are excited about the next console, it's going to be about pushing Switch 2 right now. So just be very careful about who you're following and who you're listening to for information. Also, encourage these content creators to put links in their descriptions about what they're referencing. A lot of these guys don't do that at all. They just talk about stuff, and there's nothing in their description about where they got the information from, and they may verbally say it, but like they don't do you any favors by not actually linking people in their description. So watch out for that. I always do that in my videos, and I always try to base something on real information. So yeah, just remember, this is a business. So people are out there to get money, first of all, and they're pushing their content. So, and they're using your excitement for Switch 2 against you. So just be aware of that, and be smart. Like I say in my intros, think for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Question authority. So yeah, be your own person. Think about this information and take it in, and don't just blindly believe people that throw this stuff out there.
Yeah.
I know it's annoying. I know it is.
But I'll also say, right, to kind of speak on both sides, right? Because I think there's something on both sides, right? Because as you said earlier, right, you make content that you want to make, right? You don't necessarily make content that you think will make you the most money, for example, right? I try to cover generalized Nintendo stuff, right? And I love talking about Zelda. Zelda's my favorite series, and I will continue to talk about Zelda. That will always be a big focus of the channel. But I don't want to be a Zelda tuber. I don't want to be, right? I want to be a Nintendo YouTuber. But the thing is, Zelda's been successful lately, right? And I've had a few 100,000 Zelda videos, which is great. Love it. I'm excited about that. But just because I got a few successful Zelda videos doesn't mean I'm going to stop talking about the other things. I still want to talk about Pikmin. I still want to talk about Mario Kart. I still want to talk about Mario Bros. Wonder. I do YouTube. Yes, I'm trying to make it my career, but the reason I want it to be my career is because it's like a dream job for me, right? So if the idea is to have a job where I talk about things that make me happy, why am I going to start to divert away from that, right? So I like to talk about what I want to talk about, and my point is that sometimes people may talk about certain topics for money, but I think other times people don't realize that there isn't always money in every conversation, right? Like, sometimes people make only $5 from like talking about a Switch 2 video. It really depends on the content creator, the audience. There's a lot of factors in there. I think the ultimate point is, as you made a great point, look for sources in the description, right? Be critical. I think that's what's the most healthy thing. But I also think you should hear people out, right? I think a lot of times people jump to conclusions about what point someone is making. Hearing them out, seeing where they're coming from, maybe they are full of it, but you won't know until you hear them out. So I think it goes on both sides. I think ultimately it's about being more cautious about what we're hearing, and as you say, think for yourself. The slogan on your videos.
It does go both ways, like you said. Like I was saying with my videos, people won't even watch the video because they'll say, oh, it's another one of these videos again. So I'm like, no, it's not. If you just would have watched the video, maybe you would understand where I'm coming from. Try not to lump me with these guys that just want to clickbait you to see something about a Switch 2 leak. Because there are legit information that comes out that's real, and then I'll cover that. Or if there's a very if there's a very credible rumor from a very credible source who's gotten things right in the past, then I might cover that. I always want to have some kind of real information in my content, not just actually knowing that it's fake anyway, and then and making a video anyway, which some of these guys have done. So it's just it's become like the Wild West in YouTube. Just like put the Switch 2 stuff out there quick and get as much, suck people dry as much as possible for this information. And I've noticed it really, it's gotten really crazy this year in 2023 by a lot of channels. So I'm just saying, just be careful out there, guys. Just try to do your own research a little bit. Don't rely just on the person giving you the information. Make sure you look for yourself
everything.
Too.
That's an interesting point. Because my point is, I'm not saying you shouldn't watch any YouTube. I think watch what catches your interest.
Watch critically.
But exactly, it's watch critically. That is the main point. We're not dissuading anyone from watching anyone. That is not. I don't think that's the point here. It's just about thinking for yourself. Because sometimes I'll hear about people saying, "Hey, so this has happened." Like, why is that happening? Oh, because this YouTuber said so.
Yep, they'll blame the YouTuber for that, of course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, as a creator, I cover rumors if I think there's at least some credence. Like you said, Dave, if this person has said something in the past that did end up being true, that's when I'm mostly interested in it, because then it actually has some plausibility. As a creator, though, you have to make sure your audience knows that what you're talking about is not confirmed. I always start off my videos being like, this is a rumor, links in the description, although I'm human, sometimes I mess up, maybe I forget to put a link or something, right? But I always try to do that. You just have to make sure and set expectations for people, because you see these other YouTubers that are just like, yep, Switch 2 getting announced in July. The OLED was announced in the second week of July 2021, so it's happening this week. It's like, what? Maybe.
But
maybe. Yeah. I don't think you should be making a video saying it's gonna happen though. You can talk about it. It's interesting, but You gotta
They
set
turn
those
the camera
expectations.
on. They turn the charisma up to 10 and the volume up to 11, and then they start recording this nonsense. A lot of people, I find it's just like if they're confident in what they're saying, people will believe them. Don't fall for that. Sometimes people are confident in the most like half truth or completely false stuff. Like don't confidence is not everything.
I
Confidence will deceive you.
really relate with that because I feel I'm not saying like again, I don't think I'm perfect at all. But when I talk about things, I try always talk about things that it may sound like non-committal. I'm like, oh, I think, maybe, perhaps, possibly. Because I think a lot of things are not set in stone. And I don't just mean in terms of games, I mean like in life, right? And I think sometimes that may come off as to some people as a lack of confidence. But for me, it's more so just keeping the idea open that we shouldn't make an assumption, right? We don't know for a fact that that's happening, considering the possibilities. That's where I come from with this in life in general. But a lot of people do interpret that as a lack of confidence, a lack of reliability. But I'm arguing that perhaps there's more reliability in keeping your options open. Being aware that what you think is happening isn't necessarily what's going to happen. And then you have some people who have less proof, less knowledge, less wherewithal with the subject than maybe I or others who might take my approach, and they'll say whatever they're thinking with confidence, and more people will be inclined to believe them. It's human nature, but they're actually more likely to be wrong. That happens a lot.
Yep.
So,
Often the people the most confident are often the people who don't know how much they don't know.
there's truth to that, I think. But anyways, just quick, because I want to move on to the next topic. When I get some to super chats here, they've been sitting collecting dust. I have it in the poll right now. 55% are saying yes, Switch 2 is announced this year, comes out next year.
Oh.
And so, meaning 45% are saying no, it's not announced this year. Just obviously, none of us know. It's just a guess. But if you
blame the chat, they're wrong.
Right, if you have to pick, right? If you're right, you win money. If you're wrong, you don't. Yes or no? Is it getting announced this year? No.
No.
Dave?
I'm split on it. I think they could announce it. But
Do you guys agree with me that if they don't... Oh, sorry, go on.
It's hard for me to commit though, so it's like, I don't know.
Right.
Maybe.
Do you guys agree with me that if it's not announced this month or next month, it's not happening this year for the announcement? Like, it's gonna be either July or August, I feel. I don't think they're gonna announce it any later than that.
I think, so... I'm gonna say it is getting announced this year, and of course, I could be wrong. I know I could be wrong, right? I just think lately, the different things happening, maybe it's because I just like to believe people. Like, if someone shows some level of a track record, I'm like, all right, I trust them, right? Like, maybe that's my problem.
Don't fall for the trap.
Well, hey, I'm not saying I'm not gonna bet money on it, right? Like, obviously, I could be wrong. I think I might be like 51-49, right? 52-48. Like, I'm not like super convinced it's happening, but if you choose to trust NW Player, right? If you choose to trust, I forget the name of the site, but this news site that is forecasting a release in Q1 2024, like, those people and sites are it seems like suggestion is we're getting an announcement for the second half, which doesn't mean July. I think it could happen in September, or August. The announcement, conceivably even October. So, now that is all contingent. I think if they do an announcement this year, there has to be a price drop. And Nintendo, based off their fiscal earnings, has suggested they have no plans to do so. So there's reason to doubt. But I also think that, plans change. So I'm going out on a limb. I'm going to say yes, but obviously I could be wrong.
I mean, I tend to agree with you. September, October, they could definitely announce it. Like I said before, I don't think they're not really concerned about the current Switch hardware sales right now. They said that they don't see them selling even 15. They're gonna have a hard time doing that. So, the Mario game is gonna sell no matter what. Mario Wonder is gonna sell regardless if they announce Switch 2 or not. It doesn't matter. So, I could definitely see them announcing in September, October for a Q1 launch in 2024. You know, am I like staking my life on it? No, but I think it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Well, you know, in a month or two, we'll reconvene maybe, and then Dave and I will say we're wrong. Well, Dave is on the 50-50 train, so I'm on the 51%, 49% train. So I'll be like, "Hey guys, I'm sorry guys, I was wrong." Yeah.
It's not about being wrong, right or wrong. It's just about, you know, is it possible? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not really about being right or wrong.
No, I mean these conversations are for fun, right? And we'll see what happens. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get to these super chats, and then we'll move on to our final topic. All right, give me a moment here. I try to set something up so I can show the super chats. Real quick. Hopefully this works. Nope, I failed. Oh no, it works. Look at that. Look at me. All right.
Yay, our prep actually meant something.
Hooray! All right, cool. So Samuel A, thank you for the super chat from earlier, buddy. Samuel says, "Look, all the signs in the past 1 to 2 weeks point to Q1 2024. I'll say that there's an 80% chance it comes around that period, maybe with Prime 4. I mean, that is maybe the Prime 4 bias is what's pushing me over to the 51% chance that it is getting announced this year. I'm totally aware of that bias. Something else we haven't mentioned during this show, though, is that there still was that rumor they got all the DLC details correct about Pokemon that came with the information suggesting that a graphics patch would be coming out for the second wave that's due this upcoming winter, which does fall into Q1 of 2024. So,
True.
Well,
To be fair, does the rumor specify that it's going to be on the next Switch? Because I feel like even the current Switch.
it
could
does. It
Yeah,
does.
it
It
Okay.
specifies next generation console.
Okay. Because I
Yeah.
could have seen a graphics improvement just for the current Switch. It's
Yeah,
it's rough.
It said for the there was an initial post that
Adding
said
graphics.
yeah a graphics improvements patch for the next console, next
Oh,
Switch, which some people were arguing, well, it might just be like a Switch Lite OLED, but then there was a second post that said, hey, this is actually for next generation. Of course, we don't know if this is going to be true. Take it with a grain of salt, but it has not been disproven, so we'll see.
Oh, minor note. If Nintendo doesn't launch any hardware this year, that will break their current trend of launching hardware every 2 years.
I expect. I
Switch.
mean, I don't think Switch 2. I think most of us agree Switch 2 is not coming out this year at this point. I mean, some people may
No.
think that. We'll see. I would say that if there is going to be a Switch 2 coming out this year or something, it would be announced.
It would have already been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I
they
feel like we
could-
would have seen more rumors and stuff. by now,
Maybe.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, remember the
Yeah,
Switch
that
Pro
was- my
stuff
point
and
wasn't
then
to
OLED
say
was
it-
announced?
It will come out this year. My point's just they are breaking trends already.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind, guys.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know if a light OLED comes out this year, that would be another revision of some kind, right?
I
But-
doubt a light. I doubt they want to make the light more expensive.
Yeah.
But
I get
or
you.
I'm not sure if that screen's even readily available.
Yeah, you're
'cause
right.
We heard that the reason they even went with the Switch OLED is because Samsung had a bunch of those screens already like good to go.
Yeah.
So
No. I don't want to
makes
dwell
sense.
too much on this because there's a few more questions and we still want to get to
yeah,
this other
yeah.
topic.
That was just a quick point. Don't dwell on it.
I gotcha. So Brian Doe with a super chat. Thank you, buddy, for that super chat. When asked about a Zelda-centric game, Miyamoto said it was an interesting question. They were already working on Peach game. This has potential. Not sure on the context of this.
There he
one.
goes again.
He'll
Love it.
come back. Well, no one can even see that he's gone right now because I'm not
It's
even
okay.
showing our faces at this very moment.
Oh, cool.
We
Perfect.
can still. Well, at least I can.
Yeah,
still
you
hear
can. You can still be heard. Yes.
For some reason, my camera's like shutting off. I'm not sure why.
I don't know.
Mm.
Maybe we'll have to.
The lens is hiding.
Figure that one out too. Let's see. When did Brian Doe ask this? I'm trying to figure out the context of the chat. When asked about a Zelda-centric game, Miyamoto said it was an interesting question. They were already working on a Peach game. This has potential. I'm just trying to understand the context.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. When asked about a Zelda-centric game, Miyamoto said it was an interesting question. They are already working on a Peach game. This has potential.
I think he's saying a game where you play as Zelda, like
Oh.
a game starring Zelda. That's
Oh.
how I'm interpreting it.
Oh, okay. That all right.
That's
there
a cool
you go.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the same way we got a Peach game. Why can't we get a Princess Zelda game? That makes
yes.
sense. See, when I was thinking Zelda, I was just thinking the game, not the princess. That makes sense. Okay.
Hyrule
Fine, he
Warriors
was-
kind of does that though.
I thought his
But yeah,
point
it's
was
not
just
fully a
because.
Zelda game.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I thought his point was just since they talked about it back then about making a Peach game that they've been working on it for a while. I don't know if that's their point for the
Well,
comment.
I mean, I think, the idea of a spin-off Princess Zelda centric, I think that there could be a spin-off. I mean, now that Zelda's as big as it's ever has been, right? So I think there should be more spin-offs, and I don't think it should just be another Warriors game. I think there's so much potential for other potential spin-offs that could do really well. I'm actually kind of personally tired of the Warriors Zelda games. Like, I'm not saying we can't never get another one, but we already have 2. Why don't we get something else? It's not going to be made by the main Zelda team. It's just going to be something made by a different studio. That would be really cool. I mean, remember there was that canceled Retro Studios Zelda game that was going to be based off a Sheik-like character or something? That would have been
really cool.
really epic, potentially. So I would love it if they were to come up with something new. And maybe Princess Zelda could be a star of that. The same way we're getting Peach as a star for this game. So we'll see what happens. Taker610 with the super chat. Thanks, man. Why would Nintendo tell us their hardware forecast for the fiscal 2023 doesn't include new hardware unless that new hardware was launched fiscal 23? So I see a lot of people say this, a lot of people, and I know a lot of sites have reported this, and they're still reporting it. But I think this was a misinterpretation of what was said during the fiscal earnings. I have not actually seen that actually said. I think what was said is something, and right now I'm just paraphrasing, but it was something along the lines of that they were just that their 15 million forecast just is for Switch systems in mind. Technically, that doesn't mean Switch 2 can't come out. They're just not giving a forecast for anything beyond Switch sales.
Yep.
Now
which is of course what they would do because they haven't announced the Switch 2.
Yeah.
Yet.
Right. So I don't think they specifically said there was no new hardware coming out this year. I have not seen that quote
Yeah, they
anywhere.
never said that.
But a lot of sites have reported that because, well, that was a headline, and I think it's, while I'm not saying Switch 2 is coming out this fiscal year, I think it's a bit of misinformation. Just misinterpretation of some things that were said.
That's why in the chat you gotta click on those links in the description or demand that they're there. Don't just take what people say at face value. You gotta see the actual quotes from these people. Like, oh, Furukawa said no new hardware this year. Like, oh, did he actually say it? Let me see the quote. There's no quote. He never said that. He said Switch 2 forecast. The forecast only includes Switch 2 hardware. He
Switch
didn't
1
say
hardware.
anything about
exactly.
no new hardware coming.
Yeah. So again, that's not us saying that it is coming out by the end of this fiscal year. We're just saying technically Nintendo did not confirm that from what we've seen. So yeah. Christopher Lee with another super chat. Thank you for that super chat. Opener Breath of the Wild style 3D Mario Day 1 Switch 2. I mean, I would love it if there was a 3D Mario game that was even more large scale than Odyssey. I mean, imagine, how like Link has Epona? Mario has Yoshi. Like, imagine a larger scale Mario game where you could ride around on Yoshi or even the ocean on Plessy. I think there's some serious potential. Now, obviously, they have to think about in the context of Mario. Does it make sense to just run around forever? It depends. But, I like the idea of the next Mario being a Switch 2 exclusive because with more powerful hardware, they can push the boundaries on what's possible for Mario.
I would like it if it's like Xenoblade, where it's like large connected areas that you go through like linearly. They not necessarily like go anywhere at any time.
Sure.
More
Yeah, I like that.
constrained, but still like connected.
Yeah, you kind of got a glimpse of that with Bowser's Fury. It was just this open
Right.
sandbox, basically, more than Odyssey, even, where it's just
Right.
a bunch of different Mario courses kind of just connected together. So
Yeah.
an evolution of that would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Dave, you have anything you want to add to that, or? Okay.
Fully open world 3D Mario.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be down for that. I would love to see what they could do in a world that doesn't have the boundaries that they usually put in those games. Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Yeah. No. So I think we're on the same page. All right, last super chat here, and then we'll get to the final topic. I know we're trying to wrap up around 2 hours. So if you guys have to step out, just let me know. All right, Samuel A. Last super chat here. Thanks, man. Prime 4 and Switch 2 in March with a big 3D Mario holiday. Prime 4 will be the big breakout for Metroid. I'll guess it's a Breath of the Wild moment. I mean, that's kind of what we talked about. If this rumor about a Q1 announcement, I mean, if that's what's going to happen, if it's getting announced late this year and it's coming out early next year, I think that's what the plan would be. But we'll see how things pan out. But yeah, let's now get to our final topic, and we'll answer a couple more questions before we close out. All right, so let's see here. Let me get back to our faces. All right, man.
As soon as you switch.
Right. Ryan switched over. Guys, please like the stream. It'll help out the stream, and it also may bring Bo back to the stream. I think you can be heard, though, so.
Yeah, it's just the camera turning off for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that after.
Yeah. Anyway, so basically we got an interview recently where Eiji Onuma, the producer for the Zelda series, Fujibayashi is the director, but they were both in this interview. But Onuma was asked about traditional Zelda, and again, I'm paraphrasing here, but they were asking, will they ever go back? And basically Onuma said that they're always moving forward. So effectively said that they don't have any plans to make a traditional Zelda. They're going to continue to come up with new ideas, and the heavy implication is they're not going to go back. They're just going to move forward, and that implies that open air is going to be continually built upon. So, with that said, while I think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are some of the greatest games ever made, I love them, and I think that, but I also think there is a lot of room for improvement. And I did love the prior Zelda games too. Do you think there's a path for linear Zelda to return, like Ocarina, Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess? Or do you think this is the end and it's just Tears of the Kingdom and whatever's beyond?
I think that there is a chance to do that in a remake of like Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
I think that game is my most wanted remake that Nintendo does is Ocarina of Time, because it's stuck on that 1996 based hardware. So they could do something amazing with that game, and it would still be the linear Zelda experience, but still like a new game. I think they could do that actually and be really successful, and people would love it while they continue working on their next mainline Zelda in the fully 3D open world, which I do hope they continue to do and make better, because there are some things I do hope they improve upon with the next one.
Like what?
Mainly, I hope they have a different idea for like the shrines in the next one.
Okay.
Like I hope they give the ability to get more like heart containers without doing shrines only, besides the bosses, because that did get a little tedious for me in Tears of the Kingdom. There's just so much of them. But yeah, it's a great game. But yeah, I think they could remake Ocarina of Time and bring back that linear stuff.
Yeah. I think the idea is fascinating. I've been kind of like a proponent of this exact same concept. I've been thinking, hey, they should go, now that they've like kind of remastered all the linear 3D Zeldas, what do you do next? Right? Like, obviously I think they'll probably maybe remake some 2D Zeldas, but if we're going to see any sort of linear Zelda love, I agree that the best path for them is probably remaking, which wouldn't be brand new, but if we're talking about remaking, we're no longer talking about like an Ocarina of Time 3D where it's effectively the same game with some quality of life updates. We're talking about changed to some extent, modernized. So that may mean a few extra new puzzles here and there, right? There could be, it would feel like a hybrid of a nostalgia love letter to the game, but also a new experience. Maybe something along the lines of what Capcom does with the Resident Evil games, right? While still making the new Resident Evil series. They do both. So why can't Nintendo do the same for Zelda? I think that I don't think it's impossible. Will they go in that direction? We don't know. But with how big the development cycles have become for Zelda, I think it would behoove them to kind of have something in between that is not just a Musou game.
Yeah, it's funny because I think we mentioned Ocarina of Time remake when I was on a couple weeks ago, Andres.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think that seems likely. I think in terms of a new traditional 3D Zelda like your Skyward Sword, the question you have to ask yourself is, can that match the sales potential of an open air Zelda game? And the
Right.
answer is probably not, given series history. I mean, it could.
We got
I
the
can't
Switch boost.
think of. Yeah, we got this. How well did Skyward Sword HD do? Do we know?
3 million something.
Anybody? 3 million?
3.5 million, something like that on the Wii.
About the same as the Wii game, right?
Yeah, it did like half as good as Twilight Princess. Granted, Twilight
Yeah.
Princess came out at the beginning, and Skyward Sword came out at the end, arguably a year too late. But those were the numbers.
Yeah,
Also, Link's Awakening remake outsold Skyward Sword HD.
that's interesting.
Skyward Sword HD has been out for less time, but I don't think it's had the
I'm
legs.
sure both are pretty much done selling. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's also the Link's Awakening remake was a remake, not just a 60 FPS HD port.
I mean, I think it's, as far as ports go, it's pretty good. I would, I think it's a
It's a
minimal
good port, but I mean it's a port. So.
It looks good in HD at 60 frames per second, and to have the dual analog controls, like all those things together, for me, make Skyward Sword HD actually a pretty good entry. I understand that there's not like significant developmental efforts that have gone into it, but I think you could argue didn't really need it. Maybe it shouldn't have been $60, but it has Zelda on the on the
Maybe
box.
the amiibo should have been 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Oh
yeah.
jeez.
I don't know, Brandon. What do you think? Do you think there's any future for linear Zelda?
I would like a more constrained Zelda, like a Xenoblade style Zelda, where they could really like pump up the story. Because I was a big fan of not necessarily the linear elements for parts of Skyward Sword, but just the linear story was really good. I felt in Skyward Sword, and we had some good stories in some of the other Zelda games. Like I like Twilight Princess. I know it's never been like a focus, but I would like them to focus on it more. But this is all just personal stuff. I understand, like, if they want to sell Zelda, you know, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are by far the best-selling formula that Nintendo's ever come up with. So they're gonna evolve that. But me personally, like, if between Tears of the Kingdom and I haven't played it yet, but I'm dying to get a PS5 so I can play Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy 16 might be my like game of the year. It's a more story-driven medieval action RPG style game, more linear, and it might end up being something I enjoy more. So for me personally, I would love it if they did something that's not quite as constrained as the old games, because they were quite small worlds compared to what we have today. But if it's something to the scale of like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, with a really well done linear narrative, I would really enjoy that. Personally.
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you that I'm always gonna push Metroid, but like, you know, as Zelda moves more in the open world direction, less linear direction, there's another series that Nintendo may be trying to prop up that, you know, if you want kind of like that linear adventure experience, Metroid is kind of maybe more comparable to previous Zelda games than Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are. Because, I mean, while granted, they do, you know, there's some sequence breaking, but it's more about collecting power-ups, and those power-ups open other areas, very similar to Zelda.
Right.
And, you know, they got the giant epic boss fights, they have the areas, there's a lot of very dungeon-like puzzles. So, you know, I'm just saying, you know, if you miss linear Zelda, maybe give Metroid a try. You might find that it suits your fancy. Just putting it out there. I also think that that while remakes are probably the best way Nintendo can give us new content when it comes to linear Zelda, I think that as they move forward with Zelda, as Alan Newman said, they're going to continue to do new things. So what Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are isn't what the next game is going to be. They're going to continue to come up with new ideas, and the format may be a bit different. I think it's probably still going to be open air, but I think they will think of other ways to convey the story, the world, the challenges, the puzzles. And with Tears of the Kingdom, I think it was in some ways a little bit more of a hybrid, right? Like the temples at least felt a little bit more like prior Zeldas compared to the Divine Beast. They had more themes, more unique boss files. I personally feel that the music was a little bit more varied. I think they made some steps, and there are some linear story elements in Tears of the Kingdom. It's not just
yeah.
all open out of order. There's waves of it. And I think they are headed in the right direction for some of these elements. So I would like to see them to continue to kind of find a better balance while incorporating new ideas as well. So I do think that we have not yet seen the best Zelda yet. And I think there will always be improvements, but I think there's an even better Zelda game that can be made with today's technology.
Yeah, I think something that I would like to see, who knows how it would actually pan out, is if they could make an open air Zelda that has traditional dungeon items, because that's the one thing that's really missing in my opinion. Getting rid of weapon durability, which I mean, I'm not like a hater of weapon durability. I know a lot of people don't like it. I'm fine with it, whatever. But if we could get back to like more traditional items and make that work in this open space, I think that could be great. I would like that a lot.
I wouldn't mind a hook shot.
You're reading my mind.
I wouldn't mind a hook shot. Yeah.
I think in Elden Ring has weapon durability, right? But it's a lot less cumbersome. Like your weapons last a lot longer, so they can still have it. The problem with the weapon durability in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild is just that they're like twigs. They just like snap.
Break so quickly, bro.
Granted, the Ultra Hand or the fuse
Fusion
ability makes it a lot better in Tears of the Kingdom, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something they can definitely think about improving quite a bit.
Yeah, I thought the fuse mechanic was a great way to kind of really balance it out. Personally, Brandon, I've had discussions with this before, both on and off on stream. But I know Brandon's like, yeah, I have fuse stuff and it still just breaks. I think it's a good balance. So but yeah, maybe they can
like it.
that.
I like the fuse, but it does kind of feel like a band-aid in some ways to the system that a lot of people didn't like.
Yeah. I feel like the weapon durability feels great until you start fighting silver enemies and you start having to use like 2 weapons on a single enemy because they're breaking so quickly or more. Especially if they have any durability taken out of them, man, I might go through like 4 weapons on a single silver enemy, just trying to kill them. They have so much health. It just ends up being this tedious, just like I'm just smacking them on the ground over and over again. Just, I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone's gonna have an opinion. There's no such thing as a game that everyone's going to think is perfect. We're always gonna have different opinions on different things. That's just the way it is. The way a lot of people, I was gonna say, I mean, it is most or more because Zelda sales are better than they ever have been. But while there is a lot of people that love Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, there are still a good group of people that prefer the prior Zelda games, and that's always going to be the case. But maybe in the future there's something that rings true for an even larger group. But I'm gonna move on to some comments here, unless there's anything else you guys want to add on this topic.
Real quick, what do you guys think about 2D Zelda? Do you think they'll just keep remaking them, or do you think we'll actually get something new? Because we haven't had something new since truly new since Link Between Worlds, but even then,
it's a great point.
That was Link to the Past.
I want a Link Between Worlds remaster on Switch, by the way. That'd be amazing. Even more, I want a brand new 2D Zelda, but I do really want to play that game again, and it's kind of stuck on the 3DS, so bring that over. It was my favorite 2D Zelda they've ever made, but I think they can make an even better one on Switch. I would love to see what they would do with that.
I agree. I think also Link to the Past remake could happen. They just did it with Super Mario RPG, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also love to
remake.
see the Oracle games remade because they're kind of hard to actually like get a hold of.
They are
physically.
I mean, wait, which ones?
The Oracle games.
They're on NSO, right?
Oh yeah.
I think
they're coming. They're coming soon.
Yeah. So
that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I think that pretty much deconfirms that.
That's fair. I
No
forgot
way.
about that.
Yeah, because Mario RPG was not on NSO, and we got a remake of it.
No.
It's interesting. Chrono Trigger is also not on NSO, so.
But yeah, Link to the Past then maybe would be a good one.
Well, Link to the Past is also on NSO, but that's a different.
That was so long ago.
It's a different beast because Link to the Past is like the 2D Zelda, right?
Can you imagine if A Link to the Past hadn't been
top-down.
added to NSO and people are just like,
Oh,
where is it?
Bro, you know how there's Switch 2 videos every week? There'd be Link to the Past videos every week. Come on, that is
Yeah.
But you know, I'm gonna say this in terms of 2D Zelda because I think some people are concerned because it's been such a long time. Mario Bros. Wonder. How long has it been since a brand new 2D Mario?
10 years.
A very long time.
I think about the same time.
Brand new
So
2D Mario.
yeah,
It's been longer if you don't count Mario Maker.
yeah, and New Super Mario Bros. U that came out
It's
in
before Link Between
2012.
Worlds.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
About
so
11 years then.
right, if you
Even
exclude
longer.
remasters and all that ports and stuff, yeah. So my point simply is that, you know, given how successful Nintendo has been and that they're focusing on one platform now, I think 8 to 7 year gaps isn't necessarily a cause for concern. Dave, as you were talking about earlier, right? Like 3D Mario, like Mario Odyssey came out in 2017. We're now in 2023. Are we worried that Nintendo's given up on 3D Mario? No, we're not. It's just where Nintendo's at right now. They can afford to have larger gaps for a lot of their series. And, you know, with Mario Bros. Wonder and it being so long, I think, you know, it's very similar with 2D Zelda. I think we're going to see it. Now, I don't think 2D Zelda is going to sell 20 million. But, you know, Link's Awakening actually sold, I looked this up, right, while we were talking about it. Link's Awakening sold 6.1 million almost on
Oh, wow.
Switch. Meanwhile, Skyward Sword HD didn't even sell 4. So kind of crazy, right? Like, that's a remake. A brand new one, or maybe an even more ambitious remake like Link to the Past, could sell comparable, or if not more so. So
I'd say it sound like 10.
maybe. So, you know, I think it's just a matter of time. It's not really if. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I think the situation though also a slight asterisk though because
Sure.
of the Wii U, because
Yeah.
that allowed Nintendo to port New Super Mario Bros. U to the Switch, and that sold like over 15 million copies, right, on the Switch, something like that.
Yeah.
It sold really well.
Significant.
So
Yeah.
like,
It's just over
Yeah.
15, yeah.
so yeah, even though they don't have a new 2D Mario game in 10 years or whatever, it still seemed like they did because they released it on the Switch, and a lot of people never played that game on the Wii because they never had a Wii U. The same with Super Mario 3D World. So I don't know, but some people don't consider Super Mario 3D World a true like real 3D Mario game either, even though like it is, but it's like there's like multiplayer. It's like it's a different kind of.
I
like,
appreciate 3D World
You know what I mean?
now more than when it came back on Wii U, because I thought they
At the
could've-
time, it was rough.
I wanted something. I wanted Mario Odyssey back on the Wii U.
Yeah.
Right. So that was kind of the thing. But I mean, 3D World's a great game. Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah. You know, well, I think I think we all agree there's room for something 2D Zelda to come in the not so distant future. We're talking about linear Zelda, right? And Link Between Worlds, you could do the dungeons out of order. Now, Link Between Worlds feels more like prior Zeldas than Breath of the Wild, which is the Kingdom, but there's no guarantee that the next 2D Zelda, if it's a new one, is going to go back to a linear style. It may actually also be kind of open. How would you guys feel about that?
I wouldn't mind. I felt like they still had very similar type of dungeons because you still needed those key items
Yeah.
to get through them. So they still felt the game basically still felt the same. You could just do dungeons out of order, basically. So I actually wouldn't mind that at all. I wouldn't mind if they try to do a whole bunch of stuff. You know, when we saw that Breath of the Wild prototype, that's
Yes.
the original Legend of
Yeah.
Zelda. I wouldn't mind if they, try to do some, physics stuff in a 2D environment. I wouldn't mind it.
And especially if when we say 2D, like it still has like Link's Awakening or Mario RPG remake levels of like graphical fidelity,
Yeah.
right? But it has like that 2D Breath of the Wild concept physics engine. Oh, dude, that would be an amazing game. I would be so
It'd be so
I'd be
sick.
so stoked for that. I think that would be a 10 million plus seller. It would be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be super cool. But in the interest of time, let's get to the chat and we'll finish out with some questions. Sound good, guys?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so let me get to these super chats here, and then we'll get to some of the live chat, and then we'll close out. All right, so let's see here. Brian Doe with another super chat. Thank you for that super chat. Brian Doe said, in regards to a new 3D Mario, Bowser's Fury was obviously planned to be a much larger game. The release of Bowser's Fury should be counted as the actual restarting point for the next 3D Mario. I'm not sure I agree. I mean, Bo, you were saying earlier that, what was it, NST that worked on the last game? Is that true?
I believe NST was like the primary developer on Bowser's Fury. Fact check me on that. Not 100% confident in that, but that's what I've heard.
I would like to confirm that, but I'm not sure. Brandon, can you fact check that
Stop
for me,
clickbaiting mess. Come on, man.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. Let's fact check on that.
It could be that they just handled the port of 3D World itself.
It says, according to Wikipedia, Bowser's Fury was developed by Nintendo's Entertaining and Planning and Development Department, so EPD.
Let me see here.
So that would be.
That's according to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But even so, it's not such a big add-on that would mean the starting point for the next 3D game.
Right. I also think Nintendo sits on games, right? So sometimes I think we have to take that into account as well, that it's tough to really say for sure how long it's been since they started development of the next 3D Mario. I mean, I'm pretty sure they started like as soon as they finished Mario Odyssey, but that doesn't mean they completed it. Like, I think there's too many real variables to say for certain. I think the point is that they typically, historically, there's a new 3D Mario early on a next-gen system's lifespan. So when Switch 2 comes around, if it's not announced immediately, we know it's right around the corner. So we'll see on that one. Now,
Mario 3D World on the Mario Wiki, take that with a grain of salt. It does credit NST with that, as well as EPD Tokyo. So I'm not sure what the source on that is.
Could be a combined effort.
Dubious at best.
I mean,
yeah.
We're between Wiki and Mario Wiki. I mean, we got a lot of wikis here. We might have to check those citations. Yeah. But I mean, I think regardless, Bowser's Fury is not a full-on new game, so I don't think it would reset the clock totally. So tough to say for sure, but I still think a new 3D Mario is not that far off. It has been a long time.
Final thing, I read an interview from on Nintendo's website from one of the developers who specifically said they worked directly with Nintendo. Doesn't mention any other developers.
Well, who worked directly with Nintendo?
It doesn't say that either.
Okay. Well, that's tough.
Some faction of Nintendo made the game.
A developer.
It was probably a Nintendo ambassador, some YouTuber.
Yeah, probably. It was me.
But to be fair, it was on Nintendo's official website. So.
Yeah.
They just didn't state who said it.
It's a mystery. All right, next super chat here. Samuel A. I will mention that they can always get another team to do traditional Zelda, Monosoft, Retro, etc., as Grezzo is likely working on a new 2D Zelda. I don't know about Monosoft or Retro. I mean, first Retro's got to prove
Retro's
themselves.
a weird choice, I feel.
Yeah,
Retro's got their own issues, or not issues. They got big projects they're working on right now.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see, right? I don't think
Grezzo could definitely do it though.
A 2D one, not a 3D one. Yeah.
Oh yeah. 2D. We're talking 2D here, I thought.
How many new games has Grezzo made? I know they were the primary developer on Triforce Heroes, but
that's a good question.
They primarily
Triforce Heroes, Ocarina of Time, 3D, Ever
They did
Oasis,
Miitopia on Switch. Yeah, Ever Oasis. They did do that. Yeah. It's mostly ports.
They worked on 3 Zelda games. 2 of them were ports, but still.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, they were more remakes than ports.
Sure.
Yeah. So just checking on the chat here. We're gonna read a few chats, but then we'll close out. Let's see here, guys. If any final questions you put out now. I won't be able to get to all of them, but I'll get to a few. Let's see. Javier Vasquez. How could you remake a masterpiece? Ocarina of Time was already flawless to make an enhanced version of the game. Resident Evil 4 Remake worked because the original was far from perfect. Ocarina of Time isn't like Resident Evil 4 Remake. I am... Alright. Just
guys, the game runs at 20 FPS on the N64.
Sure.
You're telling me this game is perfect?
There's
In
a
every
million
way.
reasons to remake Ocarina of Time, like a million. We could talk for 3 hours about that.
Oh,
I don't
No
have time
game
for
is
that, sorry.
perfect.
Tonight, at least.
Especially not an
Yeah.
N64 game.
Also, Resident Evil 4 was arguably the best game.
Yeah,
that
a
came
lot
out
of people would
on
argue
GameCube.
Resident Evil 4 is perfect.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Resident Evil 4 is easy a top 5 GameCube game. I would say top 3. Metroid Prime, Wind Waker, Resident Evil 4. I mean, Twilight Princess is up
Resident
there too,
Evil
but
4 is like one of the top horror games of all time.
I would say maybe the. I mean, it depends what you're looking for, because Resident Evil 4 is more action oriented, but it is one of the greatest games ever made. So not to say Ocarina of Time isn't also one of the greatest games ever made. Ocarina of Time does hold the highest aggregate review score on Metacritic. Granted, smaller sample size because it was in the 90s, but yeah, they're both incredible games. And I think as time progresses, there's more opportunity. Ocarina of Time supposedly causes a 3-way time split. Could they maybe add some story elements or some small little pieces of dialogue that might add more context to that? Could they maybe expand the ice cavern a little bit, right? Could they add a few more side quests? And obviously visually, performance-wise, like those are absolutely huge things they can improve upon. Even if it's just that alone would be significant. Even if it's gameplay-wise 100% the same, just it running at 30 or even 60 frames per second, as some remasters and remakes have been for Zelda, especially if it's not open world, that actually might be pretty believable for them to pull off. Yeah. So I think there's absolutely room to enhance it, but keep the core essence of it for sure, because I would say it is a masterpiece, but modernize it in a beautiful way.
It's not like Ocarina of Time suddenly disappears as soon as a remake comes out. Still enjoy the original game. Still exists.
Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah. Lex34, I actually love Phantom Hourglass more than the Spirit Tracks. I felt the boat traverse was better than the train. I have not played Spirit Tracks personally. I have played Phantom Hourglass.
No, Spirit Tracks is way better. Way better.
I probably should play Spirit Tracks at some point. Maybe if Nintendo adds, I don't know how they can. The thing is, because of the dual screens, it's gonna be so hard to add DS and 3DS Virtual Console
Dual
or NSO.
screen,
I don't
That's
know
the Switch too, man. The Switch dual screen.
If it has like
and you gotta
like
do
a
the touch
flap or
controls
something,
too.
like if they do the the notebook design, or what do I call
Clamshell.
it? Clamshell.
Fold?
Yeah,
I feel like that would be really expensive. Well, not necessarily.
Yeah, I don't know. Netweed, I just had a massive soft spot for 3D World. I love 3D World as well. Again, at the time,
It's not what the Wii U needed.
It was a little bittersweet, exactly. It just wasn't what the Wii U needed. It didn't save the Wii U. It kind of contributed to the conversation of it just being mid. So, But, let's close out the, Actually, Netwood here saying 10 million in days is remarkable. Tears of the Kingdom has surpassed 20 million now. Has it? I heard that Paul Gale said that Switch Tears of the Kingdom had sold like 15% of like the total like amount of Switches out there, so it's like around 18 point something million or something. Like it seems like it's at, if it's not at 20, it's really close. And that bodes well because it hasn't even seen a holiday. Tears of the Kingdom has not seen a holiday period yet, nor have they announced an expansion pass. And if there's a Switch 2 around the corner, there could also be a graphics kind of like patch as well. It's like there's like multiple potential waves to push Tears of the Kingdom. We know the Amiibo's coming out this holiday too, so I don't know. I think the jury's still out. I think Tears of the Kingdom could beat Breath of the Wild sales, because I've seen and heard people who didn't play Breath of the Wild who are playing Tears of the Kingdom. So maybe. Yeah. Anyways, let me end the poll here. See where we're at with the poll. Alright, so poll has come in. 86 votes. Does Switch 2 get announced this year? And in parentheticals, I put release next year. 52% said yes. So it's a fairly even divide, but we're leaning towards yes. Now, I'm gonna, I think there's such a thing as positive bias and negative bias, right? So sometimes I think when we want something, it can cloud our judgment, but I also think it can go both ways, so it's hard to say. But it's interesting that it's pretty split. Like I think the jury's out. Like we don't really know what's gonna happen, which is typical for Nintendo. But
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
They're a mystery, an enigma.
they can be. Anyways, any final thoughts, guys, before we close out?
I think we covered it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me
Yeah.
on, guys.
No, for sure. Dave, is there anything you want to talk about? Any projects you're doing right now?
Oh no, nothing in particular. Just I'll be live streaming part 2 of Metroid Prime 3 this Saturday on my channel, so come by and check that out. Heavily graphically modded on Dolphin at 4K. It looks amazing. Yeah, make sure you come by and check that out. I stream it at 1440p 60 frames, extremely high quality, so check out Metroid Prime 3 this Saturday.
Yeah, his channel is linked in the description below, guys, so please make sure to check him out. And Bo, how about you?
Yeah, nothing upcoming to plug right away off the top of my head, but I posted that Switch collection video early today, so go check out that.
Yeah,
And of course, thanks for having me on again. It's a lot of fun.
Of course, it's a real pleasure. I enjoyed having both of you on. Bo's channel is also linked in the description below, guys. Brandon doesn't exist, so you know.
No, I'm not here. Don't worry.
Yeah,
He's just a voice in a void.
yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, guys,
Just
this
a
was
voice
fun.
inside Andres' head.
That would be crazy if I could like get that to work. No, Brandon is a real person. Yeah, he does exist. So, but I don't know, Brandon. Is there anything else you want to say? Anything you're working on?
We'll see. Who
All
knows? I don't know.
All good. All good. All right. Well, thanks everyone. If you could leave a like on the stream, it'd be super helpful. But we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye,
See you
guys.
guys. All right, time to fix my camera.